So hello everyone, thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to be tier listing every one of the Zealot's talents. So I've actually got two screenshots here because I got to do the bottom part of the tree as well. And there's definitely a lot of winners in here, there's some losers, and I'll go ahead and explain the letter rankings up at the top. The way I'm envisioning it, S tiers are absolute banger talents. Try your absolute best to have one of these, or like try to have these S tier ones in like almost every build, right? Like they are absolute essential to the power of the class. If you're avoiding taking it, there better be a damn good reason behind it. And honestly, I don't think that there's too much reason to dodge these talents, at least on the Zealot. For A tiers, these are really, really strong picks. When you have nodes left over, when you have points left over, it would definitely behoove you to put points into these A tiers that are surrounding your existing S tiers. So like the S's are your baseline framework that you're trying to get to with your minimal number of points, and then your A tiers are your next best bets. B tiers are like consistent perks. They're not providing like a whole lot of power. They're meeting that minimal power threshold, but like, you know, you're not upset about taking these talents to get to maybe a better talent that's underneath it or to the side of it. And they have like pretty decent usage, but like you're not like, whoa, this thing is insane. C tier is gonna have a niche use. Like, uh-oh, and there's Bernie. Oh god, he just remembered that I exist. So we gotta pause. Wait, is he talking to me? I think he's talking to someone outside. Never mind. But just be aware, the Poxhound might pounce. Okay, so C tier is like a very niche usage. There's probably like a build or a couple of builds that can make good use of this, but in general, for most builds, this is going to be points much better spent elsewhere. Like you could think of like maybe one or two uses, like on occasion, like right here. I'll be putting some C tiers like right here, and these can come in handy, but you could just invest the points elsewhere and get better results. And D tier are nodes that I just think are completely underpowered. Do not pick these. They are just going to give you like nothing, basically. Like there's a couple nodes on this tree that will give you nothing in terms of power. They won't add anything to your build, and I genuinely don't understand why they're in the tree at all. So with that being said, I believe we can begin. And of course, like, comment, subscribe if you want Bernie to be quiet so that you can hear me, or if you want him to be louder. And yeah, we'll actually put, hold on. We gotta put Bernie here. Okay, there's Bernie. Just in case you need to know what the Bernie looks like, this is Bernie. He's here to monitor the quality of this stream. I can't make him louder. He doesn't have a separate audio channel. All right. And subscribe. Oh shit, I don't have a mystery sub. Hold on, I gotta get it. Where is it? It's like in here somewhere. Is it? There it is, there it is. Oh, fucking. I love Photoshop, guys. This is staying in the video, by the way. Oh god, that's big. Okay, there we go. That's just so you know, like S tier is relatively as powerful as just subscribing. Okay. There we go. Members only for the dog AMA. Alright guys, let's go ahead and begin, and I'm going to have to reference, we're going to be referencing our lovely guide here on Games Lantern. So if you didn't know about this site, check it out. It's a pretty good site. And we're starting up here at the top with Anointing Blood. Up to 25% base ranged damage reduced the further you are from the target. So this is base range damage, which means it's an additional multiplier. Any other damage boosts that you have from any other sources, like on your gun or whatever, are then further multiplied by this. So this is just going to multiply your damage by up to 1.25 times if you're nice and close to the targets, which thankfully for the Zealot is pretty sort of in line with what he wants to do as a concept, right? So this is going to work really well with two weapons in particular. That is the Bolter and the Flamer. These two weapons love this talent. The Flamer, like, enemies are obviously pretty close to you. The Bolter, you're going to press that barrel right up against the weak spot on a Beast and Urgle and let it rip. And yeah, those points are really, really, like, good for those sort of weapons or that sort of build. The problem with this is that there are so many other good talents in the tree right now that are like super good for the core of what Zealot is, which is doing melee damage, that oftentimes you don't want to spend the point on this. And for that reason, I'll give it the A tier. Like, this is a very powerful node, and if for some reason you have additional nodes to spend, which I don't think that you would in most cases, this is definitely a good pickup though. Like, it's a strong node. It's just like not core to the Zealot's build right now, which is almost entirely melee focused. Then we have, however, our Disdain. And now Disdain used to be bugged, or it was like broken in an intentional way. It's hard to tell. This is like a fat shark, like a Bethesda bug. This is like a fat shark bug, where this was a talent that previously, when you swung at 5 enemies, it would stack the damage on that 5 on that attack, because it would like gather up the number of enemies you hit. Then the next attack, it would dish those out, but you wouldn't get more stacks back. So you would alternate an attack that got the extra damage and an attack that just gains some damage. An attack that got extra damage and back and forth. But currently, now it can build stacks at the same time it dispenses stacks. So this means when you're just attacking a boss straight up, it's just 5% damage because you're hitting that same one target over and over and over again. But when you're going into hordes, this is up to 25% damage on every single swing. So this is absolutely an S tier talent. This is, I think, probably the best talent in the top row right now. So it's a great place to start almost every build because it has access to almost every talent up here. So definite S tier there. And I should just realize I should probably make this S a different color because it is blending in with the node itself. Maybe if I just like, hold on, what if I just put a stroke on it? What if I just stroke it? Stroke. Outside. I'll put a like 5-point stroke on it. There we go. Okay, that'll make it stand out. Cool. If I could. All right, there we go. All right, so we have 2 down and many more to go. We are now on to our new talent, a revitalized talent called Backstabber. 25% damage on backstab and flanking hits. Flanking hits are backstabs with guns, if you were wondering. And the backstabber, or the backstab is just literally just backstabs. Now this window is pretty tight. The problem with this talent, in my experience, is just that like Darktide is a pretty inconsistent game in terms of what counts as a quote-unquote backstab. You can stab enemies in places where you're like, this enemy should be facing me, and based on the way they swing or like stagger, you'll get a backstab hit. And it's like, okay, weird, but all right. And sometimes you'll be like almost entirely behind an enemy and it won't count. But at the same time, this is a lot of damage. Backstabs are fairly easy to accomplish, and yeah, there's a lot of builds that definitely will make a good use of this. Now, I'm somewhere between A and S tier on this one, but I don't know if I feel S entirely, because I could see skipping this on some builds where you're just doing frontal attacks, right? If you're using Relic Blade and you're just holding the line and fighting, it's probably just like, you know, gonna stay in that A tier. But anything using Shroudfield or anything using a high mobility weapon like the Dueling Sword or the Dagger would get a lot of value out of it. So I'm gonna keep it down just a little bit. It's very high A tier, but it is only A tier. I mean, it's still really good, right? Then we've got a whole row of toughness abilities here, guys. All of the abilities, the way they've reconfigured it is that all of these abilities in this row just generate toughness now, which is really nice to have them all aligned. And we're going to start here on the right with Vicious Offering, replenishing 10% toughness on heavy attack kill. So this can be a very powerful talent. It requires, like, you know, a weapon that can cleave multiple enemies on a single heavy attack, but it is different than the Arbites, which gets 10% toughness on staggering hit, which caps at 10% toughness per, like, you know, swing. This is on kill. So if you kill 10 enemies with a single heavy attack, that's 100% of your toughness instantly. So on certain weapons, like Relic Blade, like Eviscerator, you can cleave multiple enemies at once, get a huge chunk of toughness back. The weakness of this talent is that it does require you to get a kill to activate it. So that is a little bit of a downside there. How do I feel about this? I don't actually end up taking this talent in most cases, so that kind of does color me against it. I tend to feel like it's overkill, right? It just seems like it's not necessary on Zealot most times. I kind of want to rank this B. I think the commenters, don't worry about the commenters if you're wait, no, you can see them. They're right there. They're right here. If you're watching this on YouTube later. Here's the comments. They called B. I agree. B, because this is like, if you have extra spare points, this can add value to your build, but this isn't going to break your build or make your build a lot worse without it. There's other talents you could spend this on. I personally feel that Zealot's toughness economy is fine without it. I don't really find myself needing a whole lot of regeneration. And remember that regeneration effects are like tiered, right? The best regeneration effects or the best toughness talents are ones that either make your toughness higher or make your toughness take less damage, like toughness damage reduction, because then your toughness just lasts longer and you take less damage in the first place. Then comes consistent regeneration effects that are always going without you having to do anything, especially ones that have high values. Then comes the ones that trigger on every hit, and then comes the ones that trigger on like every kill or like special events like that, because those are the ones that are the hardest to trigger consistently. So if you find yourself fighting a boss, right, if you're 1v1ing a boss, this does nothing. It literally does nothing. You have to get a kill in order to trigger it, and it's 10%. So this is going to be really good, but then you have to lose the toughness to gain the toughness, so it's not as good as just having toughness in the first place. This, however, right here, Second Wind is 50, without even looking at it, this is 15% toughness on a successful dodge. The game is super generous about what consists of a quote-unquote successful dodge. This is maybe one of Zealot's craziest and most defining talents. This is a multiplicative factor in terms of how survivable Zealot is, because not only are you avoiding the damage from the attack, but you trigger a host of other benefits that we'll talk about when we go down in the talent tree, and you get toughness back, and it's a big chunk of toughness, right? So you'll just dodge an attack. You won't even realize that you're dodging an attack. It'll be like a bullet flying somewhere near you, and you'll just get a big boost of toughness out of nowhere. And so this also, sometimes you're playing in a situation where you need to run away, you need to retreat, you need to reposition. And for a lot of other classes, they can't get their toughness back. Because for them to get toughness back, like Psyker or somebody need to get toughness back, they need to stand their ground. They need to get kills. They need to get crits. They need to get hits on enemies, etc. The Zealot can just do it by just dodging. By just panic dodging and getting the fuck out of there, you can get toughness back. You can just dodge a sniper and get 15% back and then have more survivability like that. So just by merely playing defensively, you can get your resources back, and that really extends. This single node right here tremendously extends the Zealot survivability. So definite S tier. And then after that, we have Blood Redemption. Blood Redemption is plus 100% toughness replenishment on melee kill, right? So literally all this does is it just turns every melee kill from having 5% toughness replenishment to 10% toughness replenishment. I tend to also think that this is like kind of B tier, right? It's not something you necessarily need, again, because Zealot has so much toughness already. He has so many ways of regenerating and keeping his toughness high that, I just don't think that you need to have 10% instead of 5% on this thing. It's not really going to make or break anything. And also remember, like, you're already getting toughness from getting kills, so like this isn't adding any new effects to you. On the other hand, we have a newly improved talent here with enemies within, enemies without. This used to suck ass, and I would have absolutely rated it like C or D tier. I believe it was in like last ones. So replenishing 2.5% toughness per second was the previous thing, but you had to be within 5 meters of multiple enemies. I can't remember how many it was. So it would take you 40 seconds to cap out your toughness from this, which is insane. This, however, now increases 1% per enemy. So very easy to get this capped out, and monstrosities instantly cap you out at 7.5%. So if there's a boss in the field, 3 enemies. Yes, so it was terrible. So if there's a boss in the field, you instantly are getting 7.5% of your toughness per second, which is quite nice, right? That's 13 seconds to cap out your toughness. This is more toughness than, what is the RBD's talent called? It's not called Second Wind because that's the Zealot talent. The one that uses, when you use stamina, you regenerate. That's 5%. This is 7.5%. And when you're playing on higher difficulties, this is nearly always active because there's so many enemies around you, nigh constantly. And those are the times where you kind of want that constant regenerative effect. No, Until Death is a Zealot talent. That's this. I gotta look it up. I'm too curious now. Hold on. Arbibus. This talent right here. Walk It Off. Yeah, there you go. So Walk It Off is 5% per second for 3 seconds. This is 7.5 up to 7.5% per second constantly around stuff. And you're always in melee, you're always near stuff. This is really, really, really solid. And it's accessible because you've probably already got Disdain. But my only downside on this, based on my criteria that I gave previously, is that I don't think this is entirely essential. I don't think that this is like going to make or break your build. It's just going to make you have a nice extra layer of defense. I tend to take this on my builds that are focused around being a little bit more defensive, and you're going to be in the fray, you're playing with heavy weapons, you're probably going to take a hit here and there, because when you're taking multiple small hits, this really helps to kind of keep those off of you and make you not sweat it as much. Thank you, Neva. I really appreciate you, man. So glad you're back. And everybody else appreciates it too. What was I saying? Grilling burgers. Hell yeah, dude. Awesome. But we don't really need it in every build, but it is really, really nice. This is a quality regeneration effect, and I really love the change that they made to it. It makes soloing bosses so much easier. You feel like an Ogren soloing bosses. It's crazy. So really good talent, but it has that drawback of not being one of the essential group, right? It's just not a auto-include in every build, but you can definitely get it in some builds and it'll be very good. On the other hand here, we have, I believe it's called Voice of Terra. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have literally never taken this talent in any build I've ever used. Ever. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me, right? Compare this to the veteran talent, Blood something. That one gives you an additional 5% on every kill. So that's 5% on range, which is more than this by 25%, and it adds to your melee kills as well. It makes no sense to me that a class that has as little focus on ranged kills as this class does would only get 4% toughness on a ranged kill. And also, like, this doesn't fit the Zealot archetype at all, right? What the Zealot archetype is you pull out your ranged weapon and you shoot an enemy and then you put it away and you go back to meleeing. So, like, this would only be instant. If this was like an overtime effect and it was maybe like, I don't know, triple as good as this or quadruple as good as this, I'd rank it something. But as it stands, I think that there are 0 builds that you should be using this on at all. So I'm going to rank this the first D tier of the tree. This is one that they ported over from the previous tree and didn't change at all. I was very shocked to see they kept it because it's so, like, pointless. Like, no one is playing primary Zealot range, like, kills, and if they are, you don't need 4% toughness. You need other stuff. So don't put this in your builds, guys. Now down here, we have 2 talents that are both very good, but one of them is much more essential than the other. Purge the Unclean. 20% damage increased against infested and unyielding enemies. So, yes, the Flamer would be really good for this, but remember, like, when you're pulling out the Flamer, you're positioning yourself in a safe place to shoot as much flame as you can, and if you get hit when you're shooting the Flamer, that interrupts your flaming. So that's when you lose toughness, but if you get hit in melee, you stop flaming, so then you can't get it back. It just doesn't, there's no situation where you're low on toughness on Zealot and you're like, I need to get some range kills. That's just not how he's played. And so it's just it's functionally a huge waste in every single build I could think of. Okay, So Purged and Unclean is Infested and Unyielding. So remember, Infested is all the minor enemies in the game except for Moby and 21st. So like all the little duders, the smallest duders in the world, your horde enemies on most difficulties. And then Unyielding is Bulwarks, Reapers, and monstrosity bosses, not captains, but monstrosities. So this is a really, really good value for one talent because that's horde clear and a boss kill. However, we have a lot of really, really high value talents in this tree right now. There's a lot of stuff lower down the tree that we absolutely want to save points for. You can 100% take this and you will get a lot of extra damage out of it. But I'm only going to rank it A tier because this is not a core. This is not a core. My whole goal here is to have a core line of S's that follows down the tree to the very, very strong stuff at the bottom. This is absolutely A tier. And when the talent tree was configured before and this talent was like right here, you took it because it had some good stuff behind it and there really wasn't a whole lot of other options. But as it is right now, it's a good side pick, but it is not a core pick, not in the same way that Duelist is, which is absolutely an S tier. This talent right here is crazy. 50% finesse plus 50% finesse damage for 3 seconds of successful dodge. Think of how often you are dodging with this class. Remember, this also applies to range attacks if you happen to be ranging, but Duelist is crazy. Finesse damage is the name of the game for this class, right? He excels with the weapons that already have high finesse multipliers, and this multiplies them further. So we're taking the dueling sword, we're taking the dagger, we're taking tack axes and stuff that already are doing lots of crits. And remember that finesse damage, by the way, is headshots and crits. And that's what the class is all about, is getting headshots and crits. So when we're dodging enemies, which is the whole idea of the class, you just get a huge, huge boost to your damage, and it's just free damage, right? Yeah, this is a huge amount of damage, and you can really see, like, go into the Psychanium or something and just take a swing at a boss with like a charged up Eviscerator and just see how much damage you do. Then dodge something and do the same swing on the boss. Massive increase in damage because headshots and crits are multiplied by this. And remember that both of them are multiplied together. So if you, for instance, are using one of the 2 abilities that guarantees you a crit, it multiplies the damage for the headshot with the damage for the crit. And it ends, instead of being a like only plus 50%, ends up being like plus 70% or plus, I think it's plus 80% or something like that, because it adds to both. So this is one of the strongest offensive talents. It's kind of like a hybrid offensive defensive, and it's perfect for everything the Zealot wants to do because he's such a dodgy fighter. Although it's going to work less well with like Shroudfield or something because you're going to be unavailable to like dodge attacks most of the time. So yeah, that's crazy. Oh, you don't think it does both anymore? I don't know how I would test that at this point because I have no way of going back in time. But it is still a really, really, really good buff. Drops should still be active until the 10th, based on what they told me as well. I'll go back and look at it, but either way, this is an S tier talent. It's just the best thing we have going forward, and it is really, really solid for damage. It will greatly amplify your damage, and you should be taking it. Let's go to our grenades here. This is going to be an interesting decision because, you know, you have a free choice of all 3. We have Blades of Faith, which is the quick throw knife. You don't have to prep this, there's no prep time. You just press the button and it goes in the direction you're throwing it. Does require a good amount of skill because if you don't hit a headshot, it does almost nothing. But if you do hit a headshot, it's like an instant kill on gunners all the way up to the highest difficulties. Shotgunners, trappers, all that stuff. Does some pretty good damage against unarmored targets like mutants and those sort of things. It can even be very effective against Carapace if you have some Uncanny Strike stack. So this works very well with Uncanny Strike, the most impossibly like broken thing. Oh, dang. Okay, so that sucks. Thank you, Balgra. So I stand corrected. Duelist no longer stacks both, but 50% finesse damage is still really, really good. Like, I can't understate how good an effect this is for what Zealot wants to do as a concept, because so much of combat is like dodging out of the way of Crusher Overhead, then riposting and stabbing him. But yeah, that's a significant nerf from where it was previously. But it was also like boosting your damage. It was like doubling your damage previously, but it's still S tier. Okay, this one this Blades of Faith, I mean, you have to choose one in a row, right? So like one of these is going to be better than the rest, I'd have to assume. Blades of Faith, I think, personally, is just the best on the class. Even though these other two grenades are good, I think Blades of Faith is just a very, very core and good ability. The reason being, this frees up your grenade economy for the rest of the team, right? So you're fighting for a constrained resource between everybody in the team. These grenade packs. And of course, like, Arbites has shock mines, which are crazy. The Ogryn has cluster bombs, which are crazy. The Veteran is never shying away from some extra cracks or some shredders, right? Maybe even smoke grenades, and the Psyker doesn't care. But, like, these are just free, and they're always active. They also free you up to choose weapons that you would not otherwise be able to run without it. So, specifically, on the Zealot, you have the choice to use a Flamer. Well, if you bring the Flamer, then you can't deal with ranged threats. You can't deal with a gunner who's in an inconvenient position. You can't deal with a sniper who's holding a line of sight on a hallway unless you run all the way over to him because the Flamer can't reach. And Blades of Faith makes up for that difference. You know, sometimes you just can't rely on your teammates to do everything for you, and this can make a world of difference. But at the same time, it is like a high skill thing. And the really, really cool thing about this, the extra thing that takes that extra mile, is they didn't patch the fact that you can use these to animation cancel. So when you're using the best two Zealot weapons, the Bolter and the Flamer, if you go to swap to pull it out and throw one of these really quickly, it'll skip the animation of you pulling up the Bolter and like racking it back, or pulling up the Flamer and going and lighting the ignition flame. Yeah, this is a really, really solid talent that I think should just be the default pick for the class. And yeah, I'm gonna give this one the S tier. I just think it's that good. The only thing that would bring it down is, like, yes, there's a ton of armor and stuff in higher difficulties, but you know, this thing was really never used to pick crushers and that sort of stuff, crushers or maulers. It is still amazingly useful for just picking a dog, picking a trapper, whatever it is. Trappers especially, because they have a very predictable run pattern. They run straight towards you when they're going to trap you. So yeah, these are very valuable, and they free up resources for the rest of the team. For these other two, though, what do I say about this? So Immolation Grenade, you get 3 of them. Puts a pool of fire on the ground. Wait. Hold on, I need to check that. Do you get... It's 3 and 3, right? For some reason, my brain was saying one of these is 2, but I'm pretty certain they changed it at some point to 3 and 3. But yeah, these grenades are good. I just don't think that they're... I don't think that they're in the leagues with the other classes' grenades right now. You know what I mean? Flame grenades are good, but they don't stop, like... They don't really do anything that you couldn't do by yourself or the rest of the team couldn't do by itself, right? They put down a big pool of damage, but what if, instead, you just saved that resource and just held the line while your Flamer did the damage, or while the Veteran did the damage, or while even you do the damage? Yes, it's going to take you longer, but this doesn't really contribute anything that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. I feel like this is a grenade where you can use it in a very gimmicky way and position yourself in a corner or something and get everything to crowd up on you and then like burn them all to death. That can be good. And also it's good for like unarmored and stuff, like just chaff, but that stuff can be pretty easily gotten rid of normally. I just, personally, when I think of grenades, they are a resource, right? They're a finite resource. So at the bare minimum, what a grenade needs to be able to do is provide you some value that without that grenade, you would have been hard-pressed to do X. And the Immolation Grenade, I don't think, does that for us. It just cleans up a situation that you probably could have already dealt with just a little bit faster. So I'm going to give the Immolation Grenade... I don't want to shit on it. I think it's just a B tier. I think it's just a solid, like, fine grenade. This is going to be pretty much standard, like, low levels of play, right? On the other hand, the Stun Grenade, I do want to give the A tier. I think this is your other good choice for grenade, because this does meet that qualification that I have for, like, okay, this grenade needs to be able to be pulled out in a bad situation, and turn it around for me, right? That's where I see value in blitzes, especially when you have a limited amount of this resource, right? That's when I'm playing like Ogren or Ogrenheimer, or even any Ogren, because I always use cluster bombs. The value in those is that, okay, shit, there's like a boss who's crowding us. I need to get this res. Grenade at my feet. And that'll buy you the time you need to make the play, and there you go. And this one can actually generate that value. You get 3 of them. It's pretty much a get out of jail free card. The only thing this thing doesn't stop is bosses, which I think is a big downside of it. But I think it's a decent choice. If you're going to choose a grenade option other than the daggers, I definitely recommend Sunstorm. Just like use them at the right time, right? Use them when players get downed, and otherwise just don't use them. Because if you're stunning a horde of enemies that you were just going to go and fight anyway, like most times you can just gold up, you can just have the veteran shout and you can just fight them and you'll take almost no damage. Only use these when things are absolutely critical and you're like completely surrounded, you're choked out on all sides and you need to buy that time. I think the duration is plenty long on these. I saw someone saying in the chat, like, I think the duration is actually very long. But remember that these are weaker versions, like you're saying there. These are weaker versions of the Shock Mine. So, like, if you've got a Shock Mine RBDs in your team who's not regenerating them 1 every minute, then spare them for him, because the Shock Mine's just better. But yeah, this is a solid note. I just think that the knife is better as the default choice. Okay, coming down here. I mean, I don't even know if I need to rank until death. Like, you have to take it unless you're gonna put, let's see, hold on, 8, 10, 11, unless you're only gonna put 13 or 14 points. No, but you can't even take all 3 of these. So unless you're level 12 and you took every single one of these, until death is just sort of like the de facto zealot ability. I think it's just really, really strong. Is it S strong? I think it is, right? Like, this just allows you to do so much bullshit, right? It's mandatory, first of all, so automatic S, right? Yeah, my definition of S tier was this should be in every build. And I definitely believe that this should be in every build, because you should probably be trying to get down here to your abilities and auras. So yeah, I'm going to stand by that decision and say that it is in fact S tier by those criteria. Yeah, 2 minutes of, like, 2 minutes seems like a long time for an invulnerability to come back up, but it's not. Right, this comes up if you're playing like an absolute dog and you just are getting the shit beat out of you every time you turn around. This is up like 15 times a mission. And I've had missions go by shit. I played like a mission on stream the other day where I had this procced no less than 6 times in the game, right? And that was me playing at the level that I play at. And I play pretty good Zealot. You know, I'm not playing Psyker level here. Like, I play a pretty damn good Zealot, and like I still was getting procced left and right. You never know like what bullshit is going to happen to you, and this is why I put value on talents like True Grit on Arbides, right? Arbides is next to invincible against chip damage and damage over time and like, you know, all those effects, because he just has so much regeneration. But occasionally some bullshit slips through. You get shoved by a barrel or the barrel, like, you know, kills you, would have killed you, or you get shoved by a boss and then you get overheaded by a crusher that was aimed for someone else, or a burster like hits you when it shouldn't have, right? You know, this is a catastrophic fuck up avoidance. And it just absolutely stops you from dying, and it buys you 5 full seconds, which is a thing I don't think people realize how long a time that is, right? 5 full seconds to not die in a situation is more than enough time for the Zealot to do a lot of movement, to get a lot of cooldown back, whatever it might be. That can be the difference between having your cooldown up for your stealth and not. Oftentimes it is. So yeah, this is S tier, and it sort of defines the Zealot. I'm very glad it's in the core line now, because it's very definitive of the Zealot as a class. We also have to award an S tier to this little talent right here that I can't remember the name of, but it's very fucking good, which is called Sustained Assault. 4% melee damage for 5 seconds on hitting an enemy with a melee attack, stacks 5 times. This is an absolute no-brainer. The Zealot is about doing melee damage. I cannot envision a build where you would not be taking this, right? I just can't. Like, fundamentally, this is just like, okay, you've been in combat for 1.2 seconds, you now have 20% damage to the way you're doing damage. Duh. And it's 1 point, it's directly off the main path, And it's just like the most no-brainer. It's a 20% damage node, right? Like, we're bitching about our BDs having like 9 different 15% damage nodes. This is a 20% damage node. This is a huge deal. So yeah, this is a solid node you should be taking in every build. Right here in the middle, Holy Revenant. I also, I mean, I don't make builds without this, right? I think that this is like asking for trouble if you don't, so I'm going to give it the yes. Holy Revenant is what enables you to enter into this loop of just playing like an absolute slob. The fact that you get 25% of your health back, and it's like you barely have to melee attack at all, because melee damage heals you for 3 times that amount. You like having health after this triggers, I just can't envision a world in which you would take this and not this, right? Because like until death triggers, you are now by necessity on 1 HP, unless of course you have this Restoring Faith, which you don't because you're not taking that. But like without this, you have 1 HP, and now you have to spend the next 2 minutes on 1 HP and pray to the Emperor that nothing nicks you for even 1 damage and puts you down. So if you don't have this, you're literally almost no better off. Like, you avoided the 1-shot, sure, but you can literally get 1-shot by a slight breeze now for the next 2 minutes until you have 1 more 1-shot protection. This, on the other hand, buys you a fuck ton of time, because 25% health on this class that already has a pretty high base health is a lot. The lower difficulty you're on, the more this is, because, like, you know, enemies deal less damage, and when you get to Havoc, your health gets reduced. So you get way more value out of this at low levels, and it ends up being so much that if you're playing relatively well, it can take a very long time for enemies to whittle this down, and that is usually enough time to buy you until your next proc of Until Death can protect you. And also, very conveniently, 25% is the perfect level to get the maximum value out of a regeneration talent down here, Martyr's Purpose. And it just sort of like insulates you at that nice low value that is like, it's just going to be, it's good for a lot of purposes. Like 25% is a good amount of health. Now, 07's in the chat for everybody that remembers the day back in, I believe it was in the beta, or maybe it changed after they redid the talent tree the first time, but this used to heal you to 100%. So that was awesome. Like, that was fucking awesome. Because every 2 minutes you'd just be like, all right, my health is a little bit low. I'll just get myself killed real quick so I can get all of my health back. That was amazing. That was pretty great. Yeah, you'd be like, oh shit, like I have 25% of my health left. Let me just take like 2 hits here, and then, okay, I'm at full health now. And then you just play like an absolute slob the rest of the game because you didn't even have to worry about health at all. But yeah, this is just like, if any other class could heal 25% of their health every 2 minutes, that'd be crazy. And this fundamentally breaks the game's health economy, because like health is the one thing that no class except for the Zealot can regain. If you think about that, right? The Zealot is the only class that can regain health, and this is his only talent that really does it in an effective way. Everybody else just prevents that health damage. He can take health damage and then be like, nah, never mind, I didn't do that. So yeah, enough gushing about that. S tier. Then you're going to have to be swift. Enemy and melee attacks cannot stun you. On taking damage, gain 15% movement speed for 2 seconds. Now, unless you happen to be the world record holder for Archive Sycorax Discontinued Edition, this is probably not all that valuable to you. It does have a couple of very niche purposes. It can stop enemies from staggering you while you are swinging heavy weapons. It can stop enemies from staggering you while you're doing the little hackamatron on the Auspex. But that's just about it, right? It does act as a gateway to a pretty decent talent down here, but I just don't think it's essential in many builds. I am going to give this one the B tier. Being hit is never ideal, right? Being hit is never ideal. You are going to be hit from time to time. I just don't tend to think that what this gives you is very valuable to you. When you're getting hit many, many times, you are engaged in melee combat, and in melee combat, you're not sprinting, so you're not getting that multiplier to your speed, so you're like dodging and you're moving at walking speed left and right, and 15% on that isn't going to make you any more evasive or whatever. Now, if instead of what it says now, instead it was like, okay, when you get hit, you get the like 50% dodge duration for 2 seconds or something, I don't know, like something like that, it'd be better, I think. But this is, this has gotten worse and worse over time, as like just straight up damage and survivability and stuff like that has taken over. Yeah, this was way better, like as someone says in the chat, this was way better when gunners were a big threat, because you could just power through gunners stun locking you. But now I feel like also the player skill level is much higher, so like not getting hit isn't that hard, especially on Zealot. So yeah, B tier. And also it's only gatekeeping like these 2 talents, and one of these is not very good at all, which I guess we'll get to right now, which is Out of Pocket. Out of Pocket, melee backstab kills replenish 5% of your missing ammo from your reserve when swapping to your ranged weapon, stacks 5 times. What the hell is this? This sucks. Like, I fundamentally don't understand. Hopefully you guys saw my Fat Shark sponsor video. I told them in their sponsor video, this sucks. I have no idea what the design of this talent is based around. The only thing I can think is, because I mentioned this to Reginald, and I know he's a playtester, so maybe he knows something I don't know, that this talent sucked and I would never choose it and I have no idea why it's in the tree. And he was like, that's interesting. It makes me think that like there's some sort of like niche use for it that I don't know about, like I haven't thought of, or there's like a weapon that's going to be added that this will be really broken for. But I tend to think, no, that's not the case. This is like triple nerfed like weapon specialist, right? A weapon specialist reloads at minimum like 1 bullet every time you get a kill, any kill with melee. And this requires you to get a backstab kill, which is already finicky as fuck, and it only replenishes 5% of your missing ammo from your reserve. It's not even free ammo. It says out of pocket. Why are we not pickpocketing? Like, if this at least pickpocketed free ammo from the enemies, it might lend like a certain playstyle where you're like a stealthy zealot and you never have to pick up ammo because you can use your backstabs to like steal enemy ammo, and then like it should do something else, right? Like, this is just spitballing here, and this isn't the point of the video, but what if getting a backstab kill gives you a free shot that's like super empowered, right? You get a backstab kill and you get 1 free shot that does double damage. Your next range attack does double damage because you're using special, ammo you took out of the gunner's pockets, and their bullets hurt like 50 times more than ours do. Something like that would actually be really cool, and it would lend a lot of value to like certain builds could use that, right? If you got a backstab kill and then could turn around and your next revolver shot does double, like, or something crazy like that, could be really, really valuable. But whatever the hell this is, sucks. Unseen Blade, 15% damage versus enemies not targeting you. This is, I think, definitionally by the things that we were going for. I think here this is C tier. This is only usable if you are in 1 of 2 situations. You are playing Stealth Zealot, or you have an Ogre on your team, right? There's no other way to guarantee that an enemy is not going to be targeting you, and enemies are super fickle with this shit, guys. Like, enemies will snap and target you out of nowhere. Enemies will decide that they're suddenly not targeting you when they already were, and this doesn't mean that you get the backstab, right? They have to be not targeting you. So simply having high mobility and whipping around behind someone and like getting the backstab, like you can do with dueling sword, like you can do with knife, well, you can do with anything. But that doesn't count. That enemy has to be de-aggroed from you and on someone else, and that's just too much to ask in most situations, other than Taunt Ogre is like in most, most comps because it's so good. But outside of that, depending on another ally to provide this damage for you, it's also underneath kind of a middling talent, a talent that doesn't really have a whole lot of synergy, right? If you're using Unseen Blade relies on not being a target of an attack. This one gives you buffs only if you are the target of an attack, so they don't really go together 1-to-1. And yeah, it's just unfortunate placement, because if it was somewhere else, you could definitely use it in backstabby builds, but I don't think it's good where it is. Then we have a talent that I like a lot, Shielded Contempt. When you are an ally in Coherency takes damage, they gain 60% damage reduction for 4 seconds, triggers every 8 seconds. So let me take here and take a moment here and explain how this talent works. So this talent, pretend you have a like Navi, like a Link, Legend of Zelda style little fairy that's hovering around you, right? When someone takes damage, that damage tells Navi, okay, I need to protect them. Then it jumps to them, and for the next 4 seconds, starting after that hit, they take 60% reduced damage to health and toughness, which is really, really good. However, during that 4 seconds, it cannot go to anyone else. So it can only be triggered on one person at a time, at least by my testing. Again, this is a very hard one to test, but yeah, it can only be on one person at a time, and after 8 seconds, it's replenished. It can go on someone else again. And 4 seconds seems like a short duration, but 60% damage reduction is a lot. This is... I think this is A, by my definitions. This is a good talent. It provides value to you and the team. If you're away from the team and you get hit, like that's when you want that defense, right? If you get pinned, if you like a gunner locks onto you and starts shooting you, you get 4 seconds where you're pretty much invincible, right? Like 60% damage reduction is massive in this game. That is that's bigger than any other single damage reduction talent in the entire game. So you take almost no damage for 4 seconds, and then it fades, and then it comes back. So that's really, really powerful in that situation, and people are always taking damage. It's triggering a lot. This can also generate a ton of value when players, or including you, are in the downed or dying state. Because when you're in the downed or dying state, when you're on the ground, you have like health, right? And if you ever looked at the value on that health bar, it's massive. It's like 500 or 600 HP. It's why it takes crushers that are overheading you multiple attacks to kill you when you're on the ground. And that, extended by Shield of Contempt triggering on you repeatedly, or you being near enough to that person to give them the Shield of Contempt, can let them stay on the ground bleeding out forever. So like you effectively, you know, because it's up half the time, you effectively extend their HP by like 30% or more. And yeah, and it also, like, when allies start taking damage, when they get in a fuck situation, like Zeno has just said in the chat there, look at it up here, guys, that's when it goes into effect, and you don't even realize how valuable it is until a trapper pulls someone into the enemy team, and everyone starts to beat the shit out of them, and this goes into effect and saves their life, or at least it stops them from getting outright killed, right? So this is a really valuable talent. It has a lot of uptime. It's always triggering, but it's not absolutely essential to the way the game is played. I will also, speaking of, I will also give Against the Odds a tier. I want to kind of like split the difference here. I don't think that any of these, just to spoil, are S tier. I don't think that any of them are like absolutely core to the build, but I think that this talent is good. It's just not like, oh my god, good. 2% damage and 10% cleave stacking 5 times, right? The 2% damage is fine, right? 2%, like, that's icing. Really, the valuable stat here is that cleave. 50% cleave isn't bad, and you only get cleave when you're around multiple enemies. You only need cleave when you're around multiple enemies. So if there's no horde nearby, who cares? You don't need the cleave. This does almost nothing for you when you're against like 1 or 2 enemies, but when you're against like 10 enemies, then you get a big buff, 10% damage and 50% cleave. Not bad, right? So this works for a lot of weapons that suffer a little bit from lacking cleave and need that help against hordes. And I think it's just kind of like a stable choice to do a little bit of extra damage and horde clear. It's certainly the more offensive and like selfish option compared to Shield of Contempt. So if you're a juicer and you're gonna go out there and fucking top those scoreboards, you'll need to be taking Against the Odds versus Shield of Contempt. If you're not really all that focused on damage, Shield of Contempt could be a great choice for you. But I think that they're roughly equivalent. They're just for different strokes for different folks. Over here we have some interesting choices. Punishment, man, punishment. Melee attacks that hit at least 3 enemies grant 5% impact strength for 5 seconds. Stacks 5 times. This should say 5 enemies, but it would be terrible then. And max stacks gain uninterruptible. So, personally, I don't play with weapons that really have a whole lot of use here. That like make a whole lot of use out of this. This would require you like using Relic Blade or Thunderhammer, but I feel like when you're using those weapons, you're not using this, you're using this. Thy Wrath Be Swift. Forgive me if I'm wrong, guys, but Thy Wrath Be Swift, the enemy melee attacks not stunning you already gives you this effect. It makes you uninterruptible to the melee stuns, which is what knocks you out of this. Now I could be wrong there. Maybe they changed that. But as I remember this, this is just also such a low buff. Like 5% impact strength up to 25% impact strength is so little. Like this should offer something else. I don't really understand what 25% impact strength is supposed to do for us, right? When the Ogryn has a Keystone talent that can give him 80% impact, this gives you 25, and you have to hit at least 3 enemies 5 times to get this up. I don't really understand. Also, it's such a short duration. 5 seconds, like, is so short. So this is gonna fade. This isn't gonna be active ever. Like, you're gonna at max have this active at like 2 or 3 stacks 90% of the time, and then the rest of the time this is gonna be inactive. So D tier. I think this is D tier. I don't think there's any reason to take this. Okay, then we got Desperation, up to 20% melee damage based on missing stamina. I'm going to give this a B tier. This is usable on certain weapons. There are certain weapons. The best one is the Dagger. The Dagger Mark 6 has an amazing push stab animation that uses stamina. It will deplete your stamina, and it does a ton of fucking damage, and the Dagger is very, very good. There's other weapons, the Relic Blade, that has a really good push stab attack, right? So weapons that have solid push stabs that convert into a ton of damage that can also drain your stamina at the same time, this is a good buff, right? 20% damage. Not that we're like short for melee damage, but more melee damage is really, really solid, and missing stamina is your only prerequisite here. So just spend stamina, get your stamina low, and you're just going to do more damage. And there's a couple weapons that really, really use this. I'm going to give it B tier because only a couple weapons can efficiently abuse this. Like, you don't want to be playing Dueling Sword and going out there and push stabbing 3 times in order to like get your stamina low. But if you're using Dagger, if you're using Relic Blade, you are 100% using up all your stamina in a lot of situations, and that's going to keep your just damage consistently nice and high. And remember that it's always active, right? This isn't like, oh, you need to like do doing something. If you sprint into a combat and you're missing 75, 50% of your stamina, the first hit that you do before you start regenerating, that's 15 or 10% extra damage. So really solid talent. Just not like, you know, when you're in combat, generally your stamina is pretty close to cap, so it's not going to provide you much then. But I also don't think it's very essential in most builds, so I'll give it the B. Then we've got 10% attack speed. I mean, come on. It's 10% attack speed. Has a 10% attack speed. No, ever gotten anything less than an S on any one of these talent trees. Attack speed, guys, if you were unaware, if you're a newcomer to the Darktide scene, welcome, first of all. Interesting life decisions you've made. But the attack speed is the most valuable thing in the game, I'd have to say. That and like cooldown reduction. Attack speed increases your DPS, increases the rate at which you can hit and deal damage, which increases the rate at which you can hit enemies and stagger them and stop them from attacking you, and it lowers the time between attacks, so you have more time in between them to react to what the enemy is doing and have different animations. So you can sneak an attack in where you wouldn't otherwise be able to. It lowers that window between attacks, and like if you've ever played, like, yeah, go play Dagger, and like cut the enemy up, and then play Thunderhammer, and watch how many more attacks you take from like little shitter dudes because you can't attack frequently enough to stop them from hitting you. So yeah, fast attack speed just overwhelms enemies, breaks the game, and so 10% attack speed is good. Oh my god, Providence. Dude. 25% revive speed. I am on this kick lately where like I love revive speed. I love revive speed. It's so clutch, and I don't think people see the value yet, but they're going to. Trust me. Like, they will, once you accept the revive speed into your life, you'll start to see the value in your game, right? You'll start to see the effect that it can make. The reason revive speed is valuable is because having players die is how you lose the game. If you win the game and you never revive a player, well, congratulations. It clearly didn't fucking matter that you wasted a talent because you won the game. If you lose the game, it's almost certainly because you couldn't get a revive on someone. So just run up and revive them. And the Zealot has 25% here, and you're going to use 3 on your Curios. You're going to have 61% revive speed, okay? Hold on. We're going to pull up a clip. I got it right here. Hold on, where is it? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. It's at the end of this.
Hey guys, Mr. E here.
Shut up.
Time to...
Fucking idiot. No one likes that guy. Wait, where's everyone dead? Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, so this situation's fucked, right? Let's jam. Let's fucking jam. First of all, it makes those faster. That's 60% faster. Those are rescues now. You saw how fast that was? I can almost get that, right? All I need is a tiny bit of time. Rescues take like 4 seconds normally. But look, I don't have the time. Look how much shit is going on.
Hell, if I can get these mutants up, maybe I can get the res. Easy.
Now, we got another person down, right? If I don't get these people up, I will get overwhelmed and I will get killed. It is the number one most important thing. And the taunt happens. And I can get 1, 2 people up, no problem. Boom, there you go. That's like the 3rd or 4th time in the game that I had to get multiple people up. And because I could do it so fast and stay on the defense, I was able to do it and then get back into the fight. And I don't have to lose my health. I don't have to lose my toughness. It saves games. So if you don't have it, if you take this talent and you don't use it, you're like, oh, it was wasted talent. Well, guess what? You won the game anyway, right? If you don't take it and you lose the game, I almost certainly can promise you it's because you could have gotten a res and you didn't get the res and you died. So get the res, guys. Get res speed. It is so valuable. You'll feel it. And that's why every time I run up to people and revive them, I was like, revive speed, and I just like pick them up instantly. Awesome. So I'm going to give this S tier, guys. I think this is also this talent provides 2 things to your allies when you get them up. It provides move speed and it provides damage reduction. These are very valuable things to give someone who's just gotten up, because oftentimes people who have just gotten up, they're in not great situations. They're going to be taking damage because they're sometimes in fire or in gas, or enemies are already going to be targeting where they are, and they need to reposition, get their footing back about them. You know, 25% revive speed on its own, I'd say that's like probably like A tier, but with additional buffs, this is great. Yeah, just and this is assist too, so like getting a dog off of someone counts, getting a trapper net off someone counts. So you're just providing little passive buffs everywhere you go, and I love this. I think this is so good. It's such a core talent to the Zealot, and since the Zealot is so mobile, right, you just get in there and shoot, get them up, get the fuck out, like you become one of the best survivors in the game. So awesome talent. Good damage, what's this called? Good fortune? Good something, right? Good balance. I don't know why I think it's that. Good damage. A successful dodge grants 25% damage reduction for 2.5 seconds. I also think this is S tier. I think this is a very, very strong talent. Let's go ahead and give it the S tier. The reasoning being here, and this is something that Tanner had to kind of like correct me on. I thought it was maybe A tier before, but I'm gonna upgrade it to the S. The reasoning here being, you know, what you think about is like, okay, I dodged the attack, right? So why would I need damage reduction when I've already dodged the attack? I'm probably not going to take another attack for 2.5 seconds. That's true where, like, the enemy is the only person you're facing. But as the game progresses, like, as you get into higher and higher difficulties, you are very, very seldom only taking damage from one source at a time, right? Imagine, like, a really simple situation like this. You're fighting an enemy in melee, and you're dodging them left and right. You're fighting a crusher. You dodge this crusher like 2 or 3 times. You happen to be in gas while this is going on. That lowers the damage that the gas does to your toughness and health for the entire time you're fighting the crusher. Or something even simpler than that. You are running, and then a gunner gets a bead on you, and he's shooting you, and you dodge to evade his line of fire, and you get him to break off of you, but then he reconnects, or another gunner locks onto you while you're running, and you start taking a big blast of damage. 25% less damage for that period of time right there. So, like, it will passively reduce the damage that you take a lot over the course of the game because the Zealot is dodging so much. And because it has this sort of implicit synergy with Second Wind up here and other S tier talent, right? You are guaranteed to get extra value out of this because every time you successfully dodge, you get toughness back. Now, if this talent didn't exist, this wouldn't be as good because, like, you know, you're dodging, you might already be low on toughness. But if you get extra toughness back, the way that the game calculates the damage that you take to your health, especially from melee, it has to calculate first, okay, how much toughness is this guy missing? Now how much can I deal to his health directly? If you lower the damage you take to your toughness and to your health, and then you gain toughness, these all multiply together in a really, really favorable way for the Zealot. And so when you're dodging attacks left and right, you can take attacks and you'll take almost 0 damage. It's the same way that the Ogren can like have a bunch of bleeding enemies around him and he can take a hit even when he's missing some toughness, like 25% of his toughness, and he'll take almost 0 health damage because all these additive like damage reduction effects are all going into effect at once. So this is another huge one on top of everything else that the Zealot already has. And also, you should be coming this way, I believe. I think this is the meta setup, is come down this way and either go here or here, and then you should just take both of these talents. I think that's just how it should be because this is a ton of damage reduction, this is a ton of damage, and this is right in your path. And yeah, you want to get this one and this one absolutely, even if you're like a damage fighty boy, and this one is really good. I think you should take it as well. And now you have the choice of any aura off of this as well, so it leaves you lots of different value. Okay, going on to our next row. There's some interesting ones here. I'm going to go this way because I want to talk about these ones. Grievous Wounds, 50% stagger on melee weak spot hits. I don't know. C tier, like, you know, I just don't see... I just don't see the Zealot being a class that, like, gets a whole lot out of this. And the fact that, like, it doesn't do anything except for stagger. And think about it, right? Like, this is the Zealot we're talking about. What weapon are we using? We're using Relic Blade. We're using Eviscerator. We're using Dueling Sword or Knife. What enemies can you hit in the head that aren't dying, right? Like, every enemy, except for the Crusher, dies in one headshot hit. So they're staggered because they're dead. Already dead. What's the point, right? So, like, yeah, like if you're gonna headshot anybody, really, they're already instantly dead for most of the weapons that the Zealot uses. For anybody that's left, like the Crusher, I just don't understand, like, why you'd waste a point in just taking some extra stagger when your second attack will kill him instead. And obviously you can't stagger bosses with this. That's not the way that it works. So yeah, yeah, if this could work on bosses, if you could build up stagger states on bosses and eventually knock them over, it would be better. Like if it gave you a special ability to do that, but you can't. Like you can't break a boss's poise in that way. So yeah, like no melee attacks can do that. So yeah, that really brings it down. I think that I'm giving it a C tier because I think that like there could be a use case for this. It might help you if you're using a two-hander and you're sweeping left and right. It'll keep stuff off of you. But for assassin styles, yeah, like Crusher or something like that, just like, you know, knocking them back constantly. If you're going for like a bludgeoning tank, sure. But for the primary way that Zealot is played, which is to run around with a high finesse damage weapon and then stab them in the head, like you're charging and you're stabbing dudes in the head. You're killing them 99% of the time in one hit anyway. What's the point in staggering someone who's already dead? So that's how I feel about it there. Let's talk about Dance of Death. Dance of Death is minus 75% spread and minus 50% recoil for 3 seconds on successful dodge. This literally has one use on the entire class. I mean, honestly, I think this is just D tier. Right? Yeah, I think it's just bad. Like, this, guys, okay, if you're wondering what you use this talent for, it's literally just the bolt gun. That's the only weapon this is valuable for. You dodge a boss that's swinging at you, you pull out the bolt gun, you have rock steady aim for the next 3 seconds. And that's it. Like, that's all you get. It doesn't give you extra damage or anything. It just makes you more accurate and have less recoil. That's it. So, like, and it's only 3 seconds, right? So, like, you have to use it right then. So, basically, it's directly designed to mag dump. And I can't imagine a build where you'd want to waste the point on this. Because, like, the bolter is already fine. Like, if you're going to waste a point on using the bolter more effectively, make it this one, please. That's what I'm begging of you. Make it Anointed Blood. This will make the bolter do more damage, and I guarantee you it will make that a whole heck of a lot of difference. First of all, if you're dodging an enemy and you're going to use the bolter on them, it's the boss, and they're directly fucking in front of you. It's almost impossible to miss them at that range anyway. Like, yeah, you might miss like 1 or 2 headshot hits, but if you can like roughly aim, you'll be fine. And this just makes you like do like 25% more damage, maybe. So I just don't think it's worth it, like in any build ever at the current point. Because again, there is so much good stuff. So like previously in the old Zealot tree, where there wasn't a whole lot of good stuff, I would have said this is like B tier, and you could take it in some builds because there was nothing else good to take. But now there's so much other good stuff to take, we have to throw this to the side and just don't take it. Master's Retribution. Knock the attacker back on taking a melee hit. 8-second cooldown. B tier, maybe? B tier. I think it would be B tier. This is usable, right? I wouldn't say go out of my way to choose this, but I will have this on a build that I'm going to be playing today or tomorrow whenever I stream and play the game next. Because, you know, it's a nice usable talent that provides something, right? You can just kind of play a little bit recklessly. It'll get a dog off you guaranteed after at least, you know, after 8 seconds. If it is just triggered, it'll stagger back enemies that are near you. But also, you happen to be playing the class that's not supposed to get hit. So what are you doing getting hit, my dude? Yeah, so I don't know. B tier, maybe B tier is even being generous to it. I don't know. Low B, high C. Oh, dude, I want some fruit punch. Let's go on and talk about this one over here. This is an A tier talent, I think. Nah, S. 15% damage versus elites is really, really good. Elites are everywhere. Like, every fucking enemy in this game is an elite these days. Maybe not S. Hold on, that's too good. That's too good compared to what else we're talking about. Fuck that. Get that out of here. A tier. It's A tier. Okay. I don't take it in every build, right? You can avoid this. It's really, really good though. Like, it's a solid amount of damage. There's a ton of elites in the game. It's gonna benefit you. It's gonna increase your damage, but it doesn't increase it versus hordes. Doesn't increase it versus bosses. It's just those elites, which are threatening enemies. But for smaller elites like gunners and shotgunners, you don't really need the damage most of the time. For larger elites, it does count. Yeah, A tier I think is fair for this because it's an augment node. If you have an extra point to spend, this is a good place to spend it if you want to deal some more damage. That's how I feel about it. Then we need to come over here and talk about some talents that I have a lot to say about, and most of it is confusion. Retaliatory defense. On block break, you are no longer stunned, and instead restore 50% stamina with a 12-second cooldown. Who is getting their block broken on Zealot? What? Like, There is one use I can think of for this talent, and this use is kind of made like not relevant by Providence existing. Because if you're reviving somebody, you count as blocking. So if your block gets broken during this, you can continue reviving. It won't stun you, and you then restore 50% of your stamina so you can continue blocking and extend it long enough to get the revive. But that's it. That's all. That's literally it. The Zealot is not a blocking class. He doesn't have any weapons that are like for blocking. Like parrying, yes, parrying, you could do that, but like you're also a class that's very, very able to regenerate stamina. Like you're almost always at full stamina when you're in a blocking configuration. So you need to be like constantly blocking in order to get any effect out of this. And then you have to stand around and like get your block broken almost intentionally. Would be what I think. I just don't think that there's any current weapon or current reason to be picking this. This is just, I think it's either C, it's like low C or high D. I'm just gonna go ahead and give it the D. Hell yeah. I'm just going to give it D because I just don't think you should be taking this. I think that you could just not have your block broken or take like a single block cost reduction node on a curio if you really have this issue. Because block cost reduction is 30% on curios or something like that, right? Or it's like really high. Yeah, I just don't understand how a Zealot of all classes would be blocking enough to get their block broken unless you're going for a res, in which case you saw like even with no block cost reduction and starting with like 10% stamina, I was still almost able to get those reses off on that last clip there. Okay, then we got to talk about this node down here, which I think does have some uses. Impassable. Gain 25% block cost reduction while dodging, and for 2 seconds afterwards, perfect blocking attack restores 3 dodges, 8 second internal cooldown. This can trigger on parries. So, like, you could be really, really goated at the game, and like fencing around enemies with the dueling sword, or really any weapon, and get a quick block on an enemy and get some more dodges. And that can be very, very valuable. So yeah, I think it's 15 per curio. But like this could be very, very valuable if you're using a parry weapon. It is actually quite valuable. And this is another one that's very valuable for reviving, right? Because you could do a dodge. First of all, it's not a successful dodge. It's while dodging and afterwards. So literally before you go for a revive, just dodge one time and then start the revive, and you'll get 25% block cost reduction. So like you're pretty much constantly going to have almost 2 times the effect of a curio stat on here at 25% block cost reduction. And you get this additional benefit where if you like riposte the attack or happen to perfect block the attack, you get some dodges back. And having more dodges is very valuable for Zealot, as we previously established. Like, I don't think Zealot is really a class that's running out of dodges a whole lot, but Agile is very powerful on dueling sword and attack axe. So yeah, I think that like this is a very complicated node that you're gonna have to go out of your way to play a very certain play style to get that value out of. And I also don't think that like you're really ever going to be in a situation where you're fighting with the Devil's Claw or the Dueling Sword and you're getting those perfect parries where you're out of dodges already and you can't already get that reset. So I'm going to give this one C tier. I think it's definitely more usable than the other one, and I could see a couple of builds that might use it to some effect. That's about it. All right, last part of this, for the front half of the talent tree here, guys, we have to talk about the auras. So auras. First of all, we have Benediction. Benediction is 15% toughness damage reduction for you and allies in coherency. This is a very solid node. I'm going to give this the S tier. Just very impactful. You wouldn't realize it, but very impactful to have toughness damage reduction, because this prevents damage from going out, and that's better than any regenerative effect. So you can stop the damage before it ever occurs. This helps classes that have disproportionately less toughness damage reduction, such as the Psyker, a lot more than it helps more toughness damage reduction classes. But it's just a very quality, solid buff that's applying all the time. Like, if this node were in anyone's tree, they would take it, right? Like, if you had a node anywhere in the tree that said 15% toughness damage reduction, I think you'd just take it. Like, it's a pretty no-brainer talent, and for it to be an aura that's just affecting everybody passively, it's great. Like, it's very, very great. So, yeah, absolutely really good. The other one that's really good, but is going to get the A tier because it's not core to the class, it's not essential in every game, is the cleansing aura, which is called Beacon of Purity. Beacon of Purity heals 1.5 corruption from the current wound for you and allies in coherency every 1 second. So, in certain builds or in certain games, this has a lot of value. Like in Havoc, where every enemy melee hit corrupts you, and there's Beast Synergals everywhere, and there's Gas Bombers everywhere, this actually generates a lot of value. I end up taking this whenever I'm playing Zealot into a team because I just don't feel like Zealot offers that much to the average like Havoc comp right these days, and this is one way that you can offer something quite unique. However, at the same time, veterans exist, and most veterans are running field improvisation these days, and field improvisation does the same thing with health kits. So maybe not absolutely necessary. The benefit of this over field improv is that this is constantly active. So you're cleansing the corruption as it's happening, which actually ends up saving a ton of health over time. So this is one of the only ways that you can like just save your allies from taking health damage is just by erasing that corruption. So like they can walk on a Nurgle's trail and they might take 5 corruption and then you cleanse 1.5 of that. And they might take another 3 corruption and then you cleanse 1.5 of that. And so you're like lowering the amount of health that this erases over time. And then after they spend some time out of it, it erases it all and frees you up to get maximum value out of things like health kits. So this is really, really good. Like this actually ends up being very usable, especially if you're in higher difficulties, like I said, that have a ton of corrupting effects. And I think you should try playing with it if you haven't. But it's only A tier. Like it's not as good. This should be your default pick. But if you're having problems with corruption on the team, and like, you know, it's a pocket bomber map, whatever, this should be your pick. All right, then we've got, what's this one called? Zealous? Yeah. Minus 15% stamina cost for you and allies and coherence. Oh, man. I think this is B tier? I'm feeling lower even, maybe. I don't know. So stamina cost. It's not that valuable these days. Many classes just fundamentally don't even really utilize their stamina. Like the Psyker just like stands there and does flame staff stuff most of the time. Void blast stuff. That takes no stamina. You've got like Ogren, who has, I guess he wants to use less stamina. I just don't feel like there's enough stamina consumption going on in the game in general to justify this, right? The ways that people really use stamina, like I would have to assume if you like graphed, if you had some sort of like add-on or mod that could detect how every stamina in the game was utilized and you put it up, I would say that 95+% of all stamina consumption is from sprinting. It's just from running from place A to place B. Well, guess what? When you're just running from place A to place B, you run out of stamina pretty damn quickly. And then you're just running on fumes. Like, having 15% less stamina cost doesn't really affect anything. And it doesn't, like, it's not enough that it really adds up to anything significant. So like when you do push stabs or something like that, when you're pushing enemies, you can get about 6 pushes. So you might get 7 with this talent. But yeah, since it's like, since you don't regenerate stamina until you take a pause, it's not like this could actively generate. Now, if this, here's my idea. They're not going to change this, but here's my idea, and tell me how crazy this sounds. If this aura was made into something unique, if they changed the auras to make them something unique and valuable, if this aura gave you the ability to regenerate stamina with no delay, that would be crazy. This would be an amazing aura. And it wouldn't have to reduce your consumption or anything. But if your aura, if your stamina regenerated constantly with no delay, or like gave you less delay, like 0.5 seconds less stamina regeneration delay for everybody, this would have insane value for certain certain builds and certain builds. Like that would be very, very cool, because it would allow you to like endlessly do push stabs and endlessly do like these cool stamina using attacks. It would enable certain builds. It would be awesome, but that would also fundamentally break the game and break one of the most core tenets. You could block forever. You could do shit like that. So maybe that's a terrible idea, and I should move on. Let's give it the B tier. Okay, all right. I'm feeling pretty good about this. Let's see if there's any funny words in here. Dabs. Abs. And, okay, yeah, okay, all right, cool. Well, I feel confident about that. Let's go on to, yeah, infinite sprinting, right? Yeah, you can sprint slide infinitely. I mean, it's basically what Psychers do already. Okay, let's go on to our second half. How many more do we have to go? Let's see, this is 6? No, this is 7. So 21, 22, 25, 31, 35 talents. And then we have 3, So 10, and that's 10, and this is 11, and this is 10. So we have 51 to go, and we did 35. Okay, well, we gotta pick it up here a little bit. Jesus. All right, guys, well, you're in for the long haul. You knew what you were signing up for. You'd love it. Okay, let's talk abilities, guys. Oh, geez. Oh, gosh, here we go. Okay. All right, Fury of the Faithful. Fury of the Faithful is the Zealot's flagship ability. This is, depending on who you ask, the only Zealot ability. I honestly kind of feel like that is, like, kind of true in 90% of cases. This is just, like, the only Zealot ability that allows you to play Zealot and just, like, actively keep doing what you're doing. And if you don't mind me, I mean, it's my fucking show, so I guess you don't get to mind me, but, like, this is the only ability on the class where you can still feel like you're actually playing the game. And thank you very much, Neva. I appreciate you. I love you. But this ability buffs your damage. You get a huge boost in damage. You charge into the enemies. If you don't know how it works, you replenish 50% of your toughness. You get a 20% attack speed steroid for 10 seconds, which is massive. So you're overall increasing your DPS for a long period of time. Congratulations to those of you who just got memberships. And thank you, Neva, again. And you get a huge hit. And your next hit is a perfect rending hit. True damage to whatever target you hit. And it's guaranteed crit. So this synergizes with a ton of abilities on the Zealot class. It can get your crit chain started. It can give you toughness where you might not have any. And of course, you can use it to lock on to enemies. If you didn't know this, you can hold down the ability and it'll paint kind of an aura around enemies at a distance. And then when you release it, you'll go flying towards the enemy, and you can go a very, very long way. And while you're charging, you cannot take attacks from anybody, except for trappers. I believe trappers can still get your ass, so good look out for that. This ability is very, very good. And of course, we've got Unrelenting Fury here, which cuts 6 seconds off of your cooldown, and then Redoubled Zeal, which gives you 2 charges. Okay, so let's go ahead and rank the base ability. I just have to give this an S tier, right? This is just an S tier ability. This is the Zealot ability. It just feels awesome. It pumps your damage. You will do a ton of damage. It's super useful for doing exactly what the Zealot was envisioned to do, which is clearing large expanses of the map through all sorts of hazards and shit that's trying to get you, and you're like, no, fuck you, I'm killing that motherfucker right there. And that guy's like, oh shit. And then you run him over and you murder him instantly. And it allows you to murder anybody instantly. So yeah, this is a huge pumper. It has perfect synergy across the board with tons of crit talents. And of course it boosts your attack speed further. Attack speed is great. It's survivability. It's consistent damage for 10 full seconds. It's instant burst of damage. This is just a awesome ability. This ability right here is B tier. This is the 6 seconds off. It gives you 20% of your cooldown back, which is a 30-second ability. So this is 6 seconds off if you kill an elite within 5 seconds of charging, which is not hard to do, but at the same time, 6 seconds of cooldown cut off the ability. You know, it's something, right? I feel like you could play without it, right? You could just play a little bit more conservatively without it. And have less charges. But yeah, I don't think this rises to the quality of A tier. I'm not like, oh, this is powerful or anything. This is just like something they're putting here to make up for the fact that they gutted cooldown reduction elsewhere. It helps, and you should probably like consider taking it, especially if you're going for a build that's using charge. But it's avoidable if you don't want to. On the other hand here, double charges is crazy S tier, right? The Veterans Infiltrate only wishes it had this sort of utility. Having charges of an ability is insanely valuable. The ability to cooldown towards your next ability when you just used an ability is crazy. I don't think that people truly appreciate that, right? If you, for instance, had 2 charges on Shout, holy shit, that would be insanely broken, because like, you could be just working on getting your next cooldown while this one is, you're still holding on to this one. So you get to like just sit on one for free all the time. You could always either have one in your pocket or you can spend both at one time. You can go in and out, or you can go in and in, like to someone even further. Yeah, like this, plus like the ability to get your cooldowns back a lot faster using talents down here together is very, very valuable. And honestly, like when in consideration with the fact you have 2 charges, this gets a lot better. It almost makes you want to make it A tier, but I'm going to consider it B tier. So yeah, this is like crazy good. You should, there's no world in which you take charge and you don't take this talent. Just gonna put that out there. Okay, let's talk about Chorus. Oh boy. Man, dude, Chorus. I think Chorus is A tier. I think it's A tier. Maybe. Yeah, I think it's A tier. So okay, here's the deal with Chorus, right? This is a crazy, crazy impactful ability. This is maybe the most impactful ability in the game. It literally puts the entire enemy army, not just small enemies, bosses, everything. You say stop. It all stops. It stands still. Your entire team or whoever is near you gains all their toughness back, gets gold toughness. Also, during the duration of this, they are invincible and you are invincible. So even if for some reason, like there's a gunner at distance and he's blasting you down, you cannot drop below 1 HP. So that's an additional effect people don't realize. And this suppresses in an ever-increasing radius. So that means you walk out ahead of your team. This is something that like amateur chorusers don't know. You are the team leader if you have chorus. You are not using this passively. You're not using this reactively. You use this offensively. You go into the room blasting the fucking book because it tells every gunner in the room they have to stop shooting. And then your team goes in, runs them over, and during that time, you get your cooldown back and you save the next one for either the next room or the retaliation from the enemies. So the ability to pause the game and turn off all the enemies is an incredibly, incredibly valuable and impactful ability when you're playing Havoc. If you're not playing Havoc, this is almost certainly redundant. There's no reason, there's no amount of enemies in the game, realistically, that's going to run over your team with or without chorus, right? You could just take one shout and you'll have all the gold toughness you ever need. It'll stagger the small pack of rages that you'll get sent. You are just fundamentally not facing anything on lower difficulties that is ever going to be up to the threshold where this is valuable. The only time on anything Auric or below would be like 3 Veg with monstrous, like minor monstrous bosses or something, right? Where you want to get rid of like multiple small bosses. That's the only time. Outside of that, like there's just nothing challenging enough to warrant bringing out something like this. And the only reason you wouldn't, right, is because this also happens to be one of the most boring brain dead abilities in the game. Not only does it turn off the enemies, it turns you off. For 7 seconds, you get to stand around doing dick all and just walking around. At least you can mantle over stuff now. And so it's like the most boring ability in the game to use. You, if you're clever with it, you can reposition yourself behind enemies and get a good kill on the way out of it. But, like, the reason people were using this in Havoc wasn't because it was super effective, or like, super engaging, and you're like, oh my god, like, look at the plays I'm making. It's like, well, this just wins games, right? It's functional. So yeah, that's the function of it. I think it's very, very strong, but it is not for everybody. Not everybody wants to play the healer bitch, and certainly not everybody is playing Havoc. Like, only a small percentage of people are playing Havoc, and if you're not playing Havoc, I can almost see no world in which it's essential for you to run this. Just run more damage and run over everything like everyone else does. As far as our little side doohickeys up here, we've got 5 pulses gives 40% toughness damage reduction, which lasts 10 seconds, or 5 pulses grants 30% damage. The damage reduction, I would say, is B tier. Remember, these are also exclusive, by the way. I would say that the damage reduction is B tier. Reasoning for this being, you're very unlikely to take a lot of damage in the immediate aftermath of a chorus because most of the gunners are going to be suppressed. However, 40% toughness damage reduction is a lot, and it can really extend, because remember, you also just stacked 75 gold toughness on your team that's going to last for the next 10 seconds. So ostensibly, this 75 gold toughness that you just gave your allies is, well, we got to math this. 105 toughness, right? Add in whatever you have in your normal stuff. Personally, though, I feel that this is completely redundant. Like, you're tanky enough with 75 gold toughness. You're probably doing just fine. Most enemies aren't attacking you. This is the time when enemies are stunned. And remember, this starts at 5 pulses. So when you're pulsing, it's the pulse is 7 pulses long. So when you start pulsing, when you hit 5 pulses, you don't stop, but everybody in your team, or sorry, you just keep pulsing. Everybody on your team can go. Everybody in your team is probably already blowing up the boss, but now for the next 2 pulses, it's staying active. So they have another 2 seconds here, or more than 2 seconds, where you still got to cast 2 more pulses, and they are gas the whole time. Not to mention the stagger effect of this staggers bosses, which synergizes with Skull Crusher, which increases damage to staggered enemies. So you do this into a boss, you multiply your team's damage by 30%, the Skull Crusher multiplies enemies' damage taken by 40%, so you suddenly, bosses just melt, they evaporate, because like all this is going on together. So yeah, this is amazing. Like, okay, this situation is fucked. We are gonna kill the shit out of 1 or 2 bosses. Go, 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 pump. Like, this is the time. So this ability goes from being a defensive ability to just being bloodlust for the entire team. You know, if this was World of Warcraft, this would be the single best ability in the entire game, right? If shamans could cast, like, what's the fucking druid thing? Like restoration, or no, that's the name of the druid. What's the tranquility? What's the one where like druids turn the whole like sky all starry and just everybody's health is like regenerating constantly, and then you cast bloodlust and tranquility, ejaculates. Yeah, so like having those 2 things together, giving your entire team full toughness, juicing them up, and then putting all the enemies on the back foot, and you go super offensive. And remember, you get this buff for 10 seconds after it ends as well, so now you can pull out your bolter and mag dump, or you can start to get stabbing. Really, really big buff, and definitely exactly what this ability needs, because you're taking yourself out of combat for 7 seconds. But by multiplying your entire team's damage by 30% for 10 seconds afterwards, you make up for a lot of that, probably even more than you lost by not doing it. So there you go. Good, still a really, really solid ability. I just think it has a very limited use case, and that limited use case is playing Havoc, of course. Okay, Shroudfield. Wow. I mean, Shroudfield is also very clearly an S tier ability. Shroudfield is broken. It's just fundamentally broken, right? The problem with Shroudfield is that this is not Darktide that you're playing anymore. It's just not. Like, Darktide is a game where you stand shoulder to shoulder with your bros, and you square off against the foes of the Emperor of Mankind, and you beat them down. You hold the line for Terra, for ire, whatever. My life for ire. I fucking love the Zealot, dude. Like the other Zealot. And then, yeah, that's how the game is played, right? You stagger enemies, you hold them back, and you are responsible for the enemies that come and attack you. You dodge them, you retaliate, you blow them up, you keep those enemies from attacking your team. You're all in it together, bros. And that's the part about Darktide that feels awesome. Shroudfield essentially says, fuck you guys, I'm out of here. And then you're going to contribute, but like the only thing you're contributing is damage. Like that is all you're like, I'm generating value, right? I'm generating value for the team by like stabbing that enemy that was about to get an overhead, or going and getting the objective done. But like, it just, you have to you have to accept that if you're running Shroudfield, you're inherently making the game harder for everybody else. Because even if you can get a lot of kills in between Shroudfields, you know, with your instant blow up on the enemies and with your backstab hits and stuff like that, even if you can get a proportional amount of kills, every enemy in the map, while this ability is active and for 5 seconds afterwards, thanks to Mastercraft Shroudfield, is just going to go for your team instead. And oftentimes, if you're going Shroudfield, you're a very high-skilled player. And that means that your team is probably below you in skill. And I think, personally, as a player who is in the upper, registers of where player skill is at in this game, I think it's kind of my responsibility to not dump the entire enemy horde on my 3 remaining allies, because it's very, very easy to be overwhelmed. And kind of like, I think I said this in my most recent Zealot meta video, but heavy is the crown, right? If you choose Shroudfield, you have to accept responsibility for the fact that you may or may not be killing your team, kind of inadvertently, and then clutch it up by running away and getting to the next revive point and helping your teammate up. So you should definitely be taking revive speed if you're doing this as well. At the same time, crazy, crazy broken ability, right? Tremendous amount of damage on one hit, allows you to insta-give bosses, allows you to do anything you want, really. So the ability core is S. Mastercraft Shroudfield is like beyond S. For what you want to do here, if you're using this, you have to. You literally have to take this. I don't care if you are only using, like, if you're doing like Bonk Zealot and you're like I just need it for 1 second to like get the stealth. That's all you're doing. This fundamentally multiplies the efficacy and the use of the whole ability, right? Like, the fact that you get 5 seconds instead of 3 is already a 40% increase, but then you get the extra damage after you come out of this for 5 seconds, and perhaps even more importantly, minus 75% threat. So you can use the Shroudfield to drop aggro and go and get the vacuum capsule, and then you can start running with it, and then your Shroudfield falls off. Previously, everything would have been like, oh, let's kill that guy. Now it's like, oh, we're already killing someone. Don't worry about that guy. He's basically like not even here. And then you just go and do the objective. So like you just get to do whatever you want for effectively up to like 9.9 seconds. And you get a ton of boosted damage during that. So this is completely S tier. Even if you're going Thunderhammer instant bonks and you're not interested in having 5 second duration, the debuff to threat really, really increases the value, and the backstab damage, it really increases the value you're going to get. This out here, restoring ability cooldown on stealth kill, I am going to give A tier? I think this is A tier. More so than for charge, because you only get 1 charge with stealth. You need to have stealth up, right? The lower the cooldown, as evidenced by 07, Rat King, old Rat King, right? As evidenced by builds that were bullshit like that, being in stealth full time is pretty fucking broken, right? Being able to take 1 hit from an enemy and be like, I'm not here anymore, I'm gone, is crazy, crazy good. And it will effectively ensure that you cannot die. So now all you have to do in order to get a bunch of your cooldown back is make certain that when you are about to run out of stealth, you get a kill. It doesn't have to be a backstab kill, it just has to be a kill. So just kill an Ogren, just stab a Reaper. And I like that also, just from a flavor perspective, this ability really encourages you to go for the high value targets, right? So to go for the Reapers, go for the Bulwarks, go for the Crushers to get the value there. Yeah, so this is going to help a lot, because at minimum, if you get a backstab kill here, this is 4.5 seconds. Or a kill with this, it's 4.5 seconds, which is a long, long time in cooldown terms these days. And if you get an Ogren kill, that's 10 seconds, which is massive. So yeah, big deal. Definitely take that. Okay. And Invigorating Revelation. Shroudfield replenishes 50% toughness, gain 30% damage resistance for 8 seconds upon leaving stealth. I think that this is S tier. Right, like your non-stealth duration, this ability has a 30-second cooldown. We are taking cooldown reduction curios. So we are like at 26 seconds or so. Then we get a backstab kill here, so we're at 22-ish seconds at minimum. And then we have roughly 50% or like of our cooldown cut off by getting either crits or headshots or backstab hits, right? So we are gonna be cutting that cooldown down to about 10, 11 seconds, which means that for 8 out of those 11 seconds, you have a bunch of toughness damage resistance, and you almost certainly have full toughness. Now, this isn't as good as it used to be, where it was constantly regenerating toughness after you came out of stealth, but the toughness damage resistance does kind of make up for that, and it can be used more as like a oh shit thing. So yeah, this is really, really good, and you should absolutely be taking it if you're taking this, because it insulates you against dying in the one part of using Shroud where you can actually die, which is not being stealthed, right? It covers your ass in that one situation. So there you go. That's the abilities broken down, and I feel pretty good about that. Bass, Sa, and BS. Okay, let's start over here, shall we? With the right side tree. We are looking first at Hubris. 15% damage resistance after a weak spot kill, lasts for 4 seconds. I would like to give this an A tier. I think this is just a really solid ability. If you have the extra points, you should pick it up. If you don't, you can skip it. 15% damage resistance, generic damage resistance is very, very good. Actually, I mean, yeah, I see the appeals in there. It's pretty damn close to that S, isn't it? Oh yeah. Okay. All right, yeah, it says. I mean, 50% damage. You're the Zealot, right? You're only doing headshot kills, right? You're only doing headshot kills. So this is just effectively most of the time just 15% damage resistance. And yeah, like that in combination with the other stuff you have, and it's generic damage resistance, which applies to your health as well. So if you do happen to take a chip of damage to your toughness and it goes into your health, it applies to both additively. So it's really, really good, and it's almost constantly active. And of course, as you know, mentioned, Riposte is right below it, which we'll get to in a second, but we're gonna go horizontally first. We're gonna talk about Pious Cutthroat here. What the fuck did they do to my boy? I can't believe they've done you like this. Pious Cutthroat, 100% ability cooldown regeneration for 2 seconds after a melee backstab melee weak spot hit. Now, this is just double your cooldown, right? You're constantly getting melee weak spot hits. You're not doing this. The problem is that this is not active when you're not in combat, like even for a second. So the reason this kinda sucks is when you really want this is when this is active. That would be good, right? So the way you used to do this is because you would have Invocation of Death, and Invocation of Death lasted for 4 seconds, and it would give you 8 seconds of cooldown during that stealth, right? Or it would give you triple cooldown. So what you do is you would get a crit, and then you would go stealth, because over that 4 seconds of duration, because stealth has its cooldown cooks while you're in stealth. So you would wait that whole time and you would lose 12 seconds. Now at maximum, if you stealth and you have just gotten a headshot when you stealth, you're gonna get 6 or 7 seconds, which is not really that good. This one is better, but I mean, it's fine, and it's much easier. Like it's more dependable to trigger. You don't have to crit for it. You just have to get a headshot. It's a fine talent. I just tend to feel like most builds that are using this or have this as availability, I mean, every build pretty much, as far as I'm aware, crosses all 3 trees, because there's good stuff in all of them. So you have an equal opportunity to take Invocation of Death as you do Pious Cutthroat. That's why I'm going to give it the A tier here. I mean, it's on par roughly with Invocation of Death, which is going to be an S tier in the tree. I'll tell you right now. But Invocation, I think, makes itself available on most of the Zealot's weapons. And 3 seconds over 3 seconds is better than 2 seconds over 2 seconds, because it can extend into gaps longer. Having a longer gap coverage is just better. And I think that they realized that like 4 seconds of cooldown reduction was too long. This is too short. You have to be in near constant combat to get this cooldown. And you're getting at least 1 crit every 3 seconds. Like, no problem. The Zealot has 50% crit. So, yeah, all in all, almost all of his weapons, this is the more applicable one. But I will still give this the A tier. If you're not using a crit weapon and this is not able to be triggered dependably for you, then you go here. And that's why it's A instead of S. Then we've got right here. Where am I at? This is Time to Kill. 50% melee backstab damage. 8-second cooldown. Ah, boy. I think this is good. Sometimes. A tier? Maybe B? Might be B. Might be like high B, low A. It's completely build dependent. I think I have to give it a B based on my earlier criteria. Oops, shit, what the fuck am I doing? Ah, help. Help. What's going on? Okay, cool. Wait, I'm in the zoom mode. How the fuck did I get in zoom mode? Stop! Don't enhance! They're gonna see too much detail. I don't know what the hotkeys are for this stupid fucking Photoshop. B tier. The reason this is B tier is not because it's not powerful, but it is dependent on your build. You need to have enemies that are facing away from you. So, you can play stealth. You could use a weapon that is mobile to get behind enemies. You could use chorus and walk behind enemies while they're suppressed and get backstab kills like that. It is certainly very, very effective against bosses that are facing away from you. Yeah, really, really good. But it is only usable on builds and playstyles that can get behind enemies dependably, and not every build can do that. So, yeah, I'll give it a B tier because when you're playing with the backstab typey thing, it's really, really good. But if you're not, it's nothing. So just don't pick it. Then we got to talk about this one right here. This is my favorite talent, as I said in the Fat Shark video. This is my favorite talent in the whole tree. I don't think it's the best talent in the whole tree, not even close probably, but I think it's really, really cool. A heavy melee backstab kill suppresses enemies within 8 meters, 5-second cooldown. This is just such a, like, awesomely designed talent, right? I wish there was more talents like this. Know that this doesn't give you any direct power. It doesn't, like, juice you up and make you into a superhuman or anything. It just gives you power in, like, sort of a passive way, because one of the weaknesses of being a stealth zealot and getting behind enemies and hitting them in the back is that you're committed into the back line, and then after you come out, everything is going to target you and blow you up, right? When you start getting those backstab kills, you have a very high likelihood of, like, you're not worried about the melee enemies usually, but you're worried about gunners noticing you're there and turning on you and blowing you up. But this can not only protect you from that, but it can provide your allies a lot of time to close the gap and get doing what they need to be doing and cut everything up. So I think it's really, really cool. I don't think it's usable in every build. I just wanted to talk it up a little bit there, but I am going to give it the B tier. It works for this build, right? If you're getting behind enemies reliably, I think it's a really good pickup. But if you're not, you're not, and so there's no reason to pick it up there. Then we've got our little, yeah, it's an 8-meter radius. It's big. It's very big. Thank you for the math there, comrade. That's definitely definitely important to know the area. But yeah, this is really, really good. Relentless Fervor, 10% sprint speed and minus 10% sprint cost. Sprinting for 1 second grants slowdown immunity. Maybe I'm stupid or something, but how many effects are there in the game that really do slowdowns? There's the ooze from the burgle. What else? And maybe I could do a Gunlugger Ogren build. It'll have to be like Auric or something, yeah. Yeah, fire, like ground effects if you have broken toughness. It was, yeah, gunfire and like getting hit if your toughness is broken. I don't think that slowdown immunity is valuable at all. I think that sprint speed is pretty damn good, right? Because that's a multiplier on top of other speeds. But I just don't generally find this very... I think this is like C tier, honestly. I don't think there's many builds that would really want this. There's too many other points to pick. And how often are you really sprinting that seriously that you need to be moving 10% faster with 10% less stamina consumption? Unless, of course, you're speedrunning the map. So, like, that's the one use for it. That's about it. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, C for that one. Then we've got Riposte. S tier, dude. Wow. I saw this and my jaw dropped. I was like, does this guy seriously need any more damage? No, he doesn't, but he's now got it. 20% damage, can stack up 20%. It lasts 8 seconds, which, as everybody that watches Mr. E knows, that is my gold standard for what makes a quality duration for a buff, because that's long enough to not fall off constantly, and dodges happen all the time. You are constantly dodging, you are constantly getting what the game considers successful dodges. It works against range attacks, it works against melee attacks, and you're spamming dodges already because you're trying to trigger things like Duelist. You're trying to trigger things like Good Balance. So now, if we count them up, and I did this in my other Zealot video, if we count them up, if you pop a successful dodge, you get 4% damage up to 20%. You get 25% damage reduction. You get 50% finesse damage, and you get where is it? There's one more. What is it? I'm crazy. I'm losing my mind. It's somewhere here. Who fucking cares? There's another dodge talent. Oh, is it over here? No, I don't remember. Oh yeah, there it is. Second win. 15% toughness. Yeah. So you're just statted. You get tons of toughness. You get damage reduction. You get like flat damage and finesse damage, which obviously stack together. It's so good, dude. And of course you're dodging and attacking at the same time. So you have like 20% melee damage here, 20% melee damage here, you have 10% here, you have finesse damage here, you have up to 25. Like, I mean, your damage multipliers are crazy with the Zealot right now, which is funny that like even with all that considered, it might not even be enough to have him be competitive with other classes, but that's another time for a discussion for another day. Okay, so that's that done. Let's should I do the keystones now or should I save them for the end? Let's go horizontally, I guess, and we'll save that for the end. Bleed for the Emperor. Damage that would take your health to the next wound is reduced by 40%. C tier or D tier? I don't think even Martyrdom Zealots really take this. This is so niche that like, also it's like a bleeding cigarette. Did I say that in the Fat Shark video? Does it save you from Crusher one-shots? Not on Havoc 40, no way. I just think, I don't think there's ever a reason to take this. Like, remember, in order to, so for the activation requirement for this, damage that would take your health to the next wound is reduced by 40%. So the first hit that you take from any enemy when you have full toughness, which you're Zealot, so you should, never does any health damage unless it's something that can penetrate your toughness and hit your health, like a sniper shot or a crusher overhead. And that's pretty much it, right? This, therefore, has very little effective times, and obviously, if you are not running Martyrdom Zealot, this is worthless, because you have one wound line. You have one wound where the threshold where it would hit. So you effectively get this benefit like 1, maybe 2 times if you're playing on Damnation or above and you're not taking wound curios. So this requires so much out of you to get so little. I don't like it, poo-poo. Martyr's Purpose, on the other hand, I really love, and I think this is absolutely an S tier. I mean, this is definitely the way you want to go if you're running Martyrdom. Reasoning being, these two talents can offer you 50% cooldown reduction, right? They'll cut the cooldown in half. This one offers you 33% cooldown reduction, which is worse, but not significantly worse, and this just requires you to exist. You don't have to be getting a headshot every 2 seconds, or a crit every 3 seconds. You just have to stand around. And there's tons of time in the game where you are traveling between enemies and you haven't satisfied those criteria. And so for every second that these cooldown abilities are not active and they're not generating any cooldown, this one is still regenerating a half second of cooldown, and all it requires is that you're on 25% HP, which is conveniently exactly what this provides us, is 25% HP. So it's really easy to hit that like number and set up for it. The other thing that makes this ability really good is it is an additional timer that triggers 1 second every 2 seconds. So it scales perfectly with cooldown reduction curios and cooldown reduction talents. So for instance, if you're running like a charge and you charge in and you cut 6 seconds off of the charge by getting this hit and you're down to 24 seconds, well, this is still going to scale perfectly and you will only have 16 seconds to go because it just ticks an extra second every 2 seconds on the timer. So it doesn't like get less value if you have shorter cooldowns or anything. It's exactly the same amount of value. So it's really, really good. And like passive regenerative effects like this are amazing, especially for like chorus and stuff like that, because you are on the defensive. You can be on the defensive and not able to get any damage done, right? Like how often are you, especially in higher level play, are you in a situation where like there's a huge fucking horde coming in and the call has been made, oh shit, we need to back up. Like we need to back up and get ourselves into a better position. Or like, oh my god, I'm just sliding and getting the fuck away from these gunners. We need to cross this gap. And you can't attack. You can't get either of these other 2 cooldown abilities, but you need your cooldown up. And this, the whole time, is just ticking away. Tick, tick, ticking away. 33% cooldown reduction for anybody else would be crazy. Think about, like, you know, for instance, think about one of the most stupid abilities in the whole game, which is Mallocator, the RBD's ability. If you or the dog kills a marked target, you get 8 seconds of 50% cooldown reduction. The same amount of cooldown reduction this is. But that requires a kill. This just requires you to exist. So yeah, really, really good S tier for sure, especially if you're going into this tree. Alright, then we got Punish Impiety. I think that's how you say that. Push follow-up attacks grant 10% melee attack speed for 5 seconds. I feel like people are going to give me shit if I say this is S, or A, I mean. I'm going to give it A. The reasoning being, I don't think that every weapon benefits from this. I think that there are certain weapons that absolutely should be taking this, right? There are certain weapons that, like, the push attack is a core part of the rotation. Crusher, for example. You would not play Crusher and not do the push attack. And Crusher wants the attack speed, and attack speed is really, really good. So the reward for this is big. The activation is where it's a little bit tricky. There are certain weapons that don't want to push attack. But I'd say that it's very applicable and could definitely be used in many, many builds. But since the points are getting kind of scarce at this point in the tree, this could be trimmed out and placed elsewhere for probably more effect for certain weapons. But for the ones that make big advantage of it, especially for the weapons that have very slow attack speed to start with, worthwhile investment. Then we have, what's this node called? I can't remember. Unfaltering. Become uninterruptible while charging melee attacks. Remove 100% of heavy melee movement speed penalties. My opinions on this, my feelings on this have really changed over time. I kind of like when you see it, you're like, oh my god, this is gonna be crack, dude. Like, and it is. It's really good. Like, kinda, like in certain setups, but once you reach a certain level of skill, you suddenly realize you don't need this. Because the way the game is played, or the way that you can play this, is when you go to charge a heavy attack, you just slide. You just, like first of all, the first part is useless, right? Become uninterruptible while charging melee attacks. We're already using Thy Wrath Be Swift, right? We're not getting fucking interrupted doing this shit. If we're doing something that requires these heavy attacks, we're using Thy Wrath Be Swift because it gives other benefits. Dodge, do whatever to not become uninterrupted. But while you are charging the attack, just put a slide in. Slide will give you a movement speed boost. If you're sprinting while you're holding it, it'll give you the movement speed boost that sprint sliding would, and you'll close the distance and you'll be untargetable. Even when I have Unfaltering, and I tried this out in my games, even when I had Unfaltering in my talent tree and it's available for me to use, I still find myself sliding instead, which effectively means I'm not getting the benefit because I'm not moving, I'm just sliding. I'm not getting the movement speed buff because it allows you to dodge damage when you're making the final approach to enemies. It allows you to dodge range attacks. So I just don't think it's that useful. I think it's probably a C tier. I could see using it, unlike Thunderhammer or something like that. But I just don't think it's worth it in 90% of builds, and there's definitely better points to place somewhere else. So good. Okay, we've got 2 wounds here. I don't know, B tier. I mean, it's like, this is like definitionally B tier. You're getting this because you're getting Martyrdom. If you're going this way, if you get this, you're getting Martyrdom. I mean, it's worth like 2 curios, like if that's worth anything. But like, this is worthless. You shouldn't take this if you are not running Martyrdom, and you won't, right? Like, no one is like, oh shit, I need some more wounds as that. So like, yeah. If for Martyrdom, it's good. It's essential for Martyrdom, but like I had to place it B tier because it's like just kind of like, it's standard. You're just gonna pick it up. So there's nothing really to say about it. It's just it's a prerequisite. Like, I would love to meet that fucking insane person that does like this and just doesn't even take this node and goes all around the edge and gets Martyrdom. That would be wild. Restoring Faith on taking damage heal 20% of that damage occurs over 4 seconds. C tier? I think this is another one of those talents where it's like, you'll get a trickle of health back over time, which can extend your health, but the higher difficulty you play on and the better you play, the less value this has. Most times, what I find, in my games at least, players, and this is a little bit different for Zealot, but like, you know, players just outright fucking die in most situations. Like, a little trickle of health over time doesn't help too much, and I just can't see sacrificing another really quality talent in the current Zealot tree layout to take this like a little bit of health back over time. Certainly it can generate some value for you, but I just think it's more wise to just not take the damage. Yeah, I don't think it's D tier. It's definitely usable. It can extend the, you know, it can extend your health considerably, but it was better before when you could regenerate cooldown when you could take damage. Remember those days? That was nice. If you take 50 damage and think to do, no, it just calculates, okay, you took this damage, and then it just heals you for that. So like, if you take 50 damage, then you'll heal for 10 damage over the next 4 seconds. Then you take the 2 damage and you'll heal for like 0.000 whatever damage over the next 4 seconds when they occur. So you'll always get the damage back. Effectively, it just extends your health bar by 20%, but over time. If this node said gain 20% health, it would be better. It would be B tier, I think, right? 20% health is pretty good. That's better than a curio. But yeah, this is kind of a weird talent. I don't know how I feel about it. Let's go over here. And I mean, I guess I know how I feel about it. It's C is how I feel about it. Si, senor. Let's go over here and talk Enduring Faith. Oh, good lord. Okay, we have some S's to grant here, guys. Enduring Faith is S tier. Good gobbledygook. 40% toughness damage reduction for 4 seconds on dealing a crit. First of all, this used to be 50%, and they nerfed it to 40%. Who's balancing this shit? This is crazy. This is more toughness damage reduction on a single node than any other class has on like any stacking buff, and it's just on one node, and there's other stuff in this tree that are going to give you even more. And crits are so easy to come by. The crit weapons, oh shit, what the fuck? Crit weapons are some of the most effective weapons on the Zealot. You're going to be critting all the time. If you're not building crit, I don't believe you. Every weapon should be doing something to get crits in this class, I feel. And yeah, this is huge. This is huge for considering like how much toughness the Zealot can generate. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, cool. 10% melee damage, good. Scourge, oh my god, dude. There's some, oh wait, hold on. Invocation of Death, S tier as well. Like, yeah, this is the quality one. This is another really good. This is better than this, and I'll explain why again. 3-second duration is better than 2 seconds. You are critting so fucking often on this class. I just don't believe that there's really any current builds that aren't getting crits constantly, because even if you're going non-crit builds, you're still building like Shred and stuff on your Eviscerators to get those crits going. You're using charge, right? So when you charge in and you get the crit, or when you stealth and you get the crit, you cut 3 seconds off of the duration, and then that frees you up to, you get that crit, and then you back off, right? Like if you get the backstab, you can get the backstab and you can fucking bail for 3 seconds and you can get all that cooldown rather than just like 2 seconds over here. So I find this one much more dependable, and I think it just synergizes better with that longer duration does so much for it. But like I think this is like the de facto thing to choose, and if you don't have crits in your build like at all, you can go over here. And of course, you're not choosing Martyrdom. If you're choosing Martyrdom, you choose this. If you're choosing crit weapons, you choose this. If you're doing anything else, you're here. There you go. And that's like 90% of builds are over here. Okay, then we've got to talk about Scourge. Scourge, I cannot believe they didn't nerf this thing when they changed Zealot. I seriously can't. Melee critical hits apply bleed, causing damage over time. So first of all, crazy talent as is, right? The fact that the Zealot can stack bleeds up to the cap of 16 stacks just for getting crits for as fast as this guy fucking attacks this without the bottom part would be S tier. Like this is, the Ogryn just got nerfed for this, right? Like the Ogryn got nerfed because he gave 2 stacks of bleeds for every hit. The Zealot can attack twice as fast as the Ogryn, and he'd stack these bleeds up like crazy, right? Having the ability just to apply bleeds for free effectively is a very, very powerful thing. And the Zealot, of course, also gets to use Uncanny Strike, which multiplies that damage. Well, really, it makes it deal true damage against armored enemies, which increases its value greatly. Now the second part, melee hits on bleeding enemies, even bleeding by 1 stack, grant 10% critical chance for 3 second stacks 3 times. This is insane. 30% crit near constantly. What else is there to say about it? I guess there's one more thing to say about it. If you, for instance, charge into a group of enemies with Fury of the Faithful, and you do a sweeping attack and you hit 3 enemies, it will instantly give you the full stacks. Did you know that? Yeah, so hitting multiple enemies at once gives you multiple stacks. It's not just 1 time per hit. It doesn't take 3 hits to stack it up. It just sweep and you'll get all 3. So this will immediately stack you to crits, and then it's a positive feedback loop. It feeds into itself. So you get your crits up, and now you are guaranteed when you turn to the next target who's not bleeding, you have a much higher chance to apply the bleeds. And it also synergizes with our talent down here, which stacks up on crits now. So yeah, your crit chance builds up, ramps up faster and faster, and you're just going to start hitting for 50, 60% crits within a couple seconds of fighting thanks to this talent. S tier. Okay, then we've got Blinded by Blood. I cannot believe they thought they needed to make this stronger. Bleeding enemies increase their damage taken by 15%. I have not tested how this works. Like, I don't... Like, it does... Well, I've tested how that it does increase the damage by 15%, right? That makes sense. But, like, if other people bleed the target, does it still count? Like, it just says enemies, bleeding enemies. This does not say when you bleed enemies. It says, like, bleeding enemies have 15% damage increase taken. Damage taken increases are really, really impactful in this game because it's a multiplier. It's like you have a 100,000 HP boss. This cuts 15,000 HP off of them effectively. It's a damage taken modifier. So this is going to stack probably additively. It doesn't really matter. It's going to stack with things like Soften Them Up for the Ogryn, which is 10% whenever the Ogryn melees somebody. So for instance, if this happens to trigger on your allies' attacks as well, and the Ogryn hits somebody with a light attack and they have batter, now they are taking 25% extra damage, which is nuts. So this not only contributes to your team's damage because it's everybody's damage on that target, it makes your damage go up by a lot. And since you can apply bleeds for free, and most classes can apply bleeds, I think Psyker is probably the class that's the weakest at applying bleeds. Yeah, very, very nice talent. Love it a lot. You should definitely be taking it and going down this way. Prime target, 10% damage and replenish 15% toughness over 5 seconds after elite kill. I don't know. I feel like this is just so like bland and weak at this point in the tree. 10% damage is something, and a little bit of trickle of toughness isn't bad, but I feel like we have so much toughness and regeneration. I think this is B tier. It's not a bad talent. It's just like, very blah. You've got plenty, dude. Like, okay, at this point in the tree, 10% damage, right? Like, okay, remember that, like, damage is multiplicative. So if I already have 100% additional damage, this is not a 10% increase to my damage. This is a 5% increase to my damage if I'm already doing double damage. And literally at this point in the tree, I'm probably doing pretty close to 100% increased damage already. This is only an extra 5%. And that toughness over time is not very much. Okay, so yeah. I think it's just like B tier. Pretty standard stuff. Not bad buffs, but like not really needed at this point. No Respite. This is garbage. What the fuck is this? I looked at this talent over and over and I cannot find any value for it. Someone inform me if you can. 10% damage, or sorry, 10% stamina on melee critical hit with a 1 second cooldown. Huh? Like, dude, what? You have to get a melee crit and you get 10% of your stamina back. Like, this is... this has anti-synergy with the one time where you'd want to be using stamina, which is this, right? So the way I could figure that you might use this when I'm thinking about it is like, okay, so what you'd do is you'd want to be infinitely push stabbing with like the dagger or something in order to get your stamina low, but like your stamina already generates so fast that this would be overkill because this would regenerate too much stamina and it just doesn't provide you anything, right? Like this is useless on 90% of builds, and on the last 10% of builds, it's like blah. Yeah, it's just very blah. How is 15% more the bleeding enemies S and 10% toughness regen B? Well, you talk about this? You mean 10% damage? 15% damage to increases enemies' damage taken, to go back over to this. So the difference between damage increasing your damage and increasing the enemy's damage taken is a matter of multiplying. So when an enemy has an increase to its damage taken, say that I'm doing 10 damage per second, right? I'm going to do 10 damage to this enemy. If I buffed my damage by 10%, now I'm going to do 11 damage. If I hit that target, and if I buffed it by another 15%, just my damage, I would do 12.5. But if that enemy takes 15% extra, you multiply them together. So you would actually take that 11 and multiply it by 1.15, which ends up being, 11 times 1.15 would actually end up being 12.65. So you're gaining a little bit of damage there. And reminder, this is enemies increase their damage taken, which applies to all members of your team. So if you bleed an enemy, then everybody in your team starts doing 15% more damage to them. So for bosses, it's like effectively you bled the enemy, and now they take, they have 15% less HP, a ton of damage. Okay, cool. Did someone say something about the way that it's a team-wide buff? Yeah, I believe it is a team-wide buff. We could test it, but based on the fact that they didn't change the wording on it when they released it into the full release, I do believe it is a team-wide buff, which is crazy. Stop this yap. Yeah, dude, if you donate subs, I will stop yapping. After I finish the Keystones, I absolutely will. Blazing Piety here. We gotta give some S's here. Blazing Piety, S tier, dude. 15% crit chance when you have either crit 25 times or 25 enemies who die within 25 meters, which is a massive, massive radius. Literally nowhere near anything. Like 25 meters is like you can't even see your fucking allies anymore. This right here, 10% crit chance as a single node is S tier. Oh my god. Like, yeah, like literally all of this is so good. The only limitation is gonna be like you might not have points to take this one, but like, okay, first of all, this is crazy, right? Just getting 15% crit chance is crazy. Getting another 10 for a single node is a literal no-brainer. Like literally, this is not even a decision, which is I think definitionally what I laid out S tier as, right? You are not even thinking about this, you're just taking it. And then you're also just taking this, because 25% toughness damage reduction on its own is huge, but additionally, when this triggers, you get some toughness back, which can be good occasionally, probably not usually, but you're also just going to get 2% toughness every single second forever, because this is always active. As long as you are getting a single crit, or a single enemy dies every 8 seconds, this stays active, and you are just going to be getting a trickle of toughness. And constant regenerative effects are very, very strong. Even small ones add up a lot. And then Infectious Zeal is giving double Psyker Aura to the whole team. Crits are a very valuable thing in Darktide. They rend armor at a baseline level. Due to the way the damage calculation is figured, they don't get reduced by armor as much as other like non-crit attacks do. Plus, of course, they have tons of knock-on effects. If you provide this to your Psyker, they are going to have 10% additional chance to stack 2 flame stacks instead of 1 every time they blast an enemy with the flamer. If you give this to the veteran and he's using recon las gun, you have just given this man not only more damage, but 10% more ammo and 10% more application of fire stacks. If you give this to the Ogren, you are literally pentupling his crit chance, because the Ogren's base crit chance is 2.5%. So you're turning him to a 12.5% enemy. Yeah, so like this is really, really good. Think about all the other talents and all the other trees that trigger on crit, and think about how much this increases your chance to crit greatly. So yeah, this helps your whole team, and though it is not selfish to take it, it's really, really good. No, you get 2 stacks. Oh, and yeah, it does give rending on the fire hit itself, but not on the lingering flame, which does most of the damage. Yeah, so you'll see like your individual damage on the tick of fire go from like, if you're shooting like a crusher or something, it'll go from like 8 to like 16 or whatever. So it's not that big a deal, but for like really soft enemies, it will do a considerable amount of damage, but those enemies will die in like 1 millisecond anyway. So but yeah, crits are super good, guys. Do crits. Don't do drugs, do crits. Okay, I want to say Martyrdom for last. Let's talk about Inexorable Judgment. I feel like Inexorable Judgment is very B tier to me. This is a fine keystone, right? However, it is just overshadowed by its competition. The only thing I could really think that makes Inexorable Judgment stand out, first of all, let's read it to those of you who are podcast listening. Moving grants you momentum, stacking 20 times. When you hit an enemy, spend all momentum, granting 1% melee attack speed, 1% range attack speed, and 1% damage per stack. Lasts 6 seconds. So this is like the only talent out here that benefits ranged attacks, right? It gives range attack speed and range damage. So that is something. There is something to a hybrid playstyle here. Unfortunately, for ASP Pirate Software, my dad was he sounds more bored like this when he talks. And he's just kind of really casual, chill guy, like he's Thor. Anyway, like, yeah, let's talk about Inexorable Judgment. So, yeah, what you'll really want to use this for is you want to build stacks of momentum. You can get those even when you're running away from combat. Like, say, if you're in Dire Maul and your team pulls far too much stuff, you can just piece the fuck out of there. You'll get momentum stacks. And what's really good about this is you can use Eternal now, which will extend the duration of these stacks up to 10 seconds. And that will allow you to get this buff for longer, and therefore you'll be safer while you run to the entrance of the arena to zone out. And Retributor's stance is going to provide you extra toughness over time, so you don't have to worry about losing your character in hardcore. And if you don't understand that, you're fucking stupid, and I can't help you. Okay? Like, oh, and let's talk about, I guess, Inebriate's Poise. Extra stacks. You just want extra stacks. Do I really have to explain this to you guys? Like don't we all play this game here? If you don't understand this at this point, uninstall. Okay, seriously, I'm done. All right, cool. We've got, so like overall, here's my thoughts on this. This ability doesn't differentiate itself enough from the other two abilities. I understand what they're going for, because this one applies ranged attack speed and general damage, which you can apply to ranged things. But the Zealot's power is not vested in ranged attacks, right? The Zealot's power is vested 95+% in melee. So effectively, we don't really care about its buffs to ranged. And that means that my gaze starts to wander over here to the other keystone that does effectively the same thing, but with a much higher return on investment. This is a very comfy keystone, right? This is a very comfy keystone. Dude, if you're a casual Andy and you're not looking to pump and you just want to survive missions, you're just running around killing enemies and dudes, this is fine. Dude, 8% toughness per second is great. A nice long 10-second duration. It's a very, very comfy ability. It's going to keep you safe. It's going to passively buff your stats, but not in a real way that the Zealot needs. And if you're interested in juicing these stats, you really would like to turn to our last candidate instead. Let's stack these up here. I believe that this down here, the extra duration, is A tier. I think that if you are taking this, this is a very high consideration to take. That's going to extend these buffs and actually make them present a lot of the time. The problem without this is that you just don't have really good uptime on this because, yeah, it's too short to get the stacks all the way up to 20. And then it'll run out sometimes in between. So this will give you more stacks, and the stacks will last longer, which is going to make you get more value out of this toughness over time. Toughness regeneration effects over time are very strong, so I'm going to give that an A. And then I'm going to give this extra 3 stacks on dodge a B, because I have not really found any problem when I'm playing with this of getting to pretty high stacks. This will help you when you're actively in combat and you're not able to like move around a whole lot. But generally the way Zealot is played, it's very mobile. Even when you're in combat, you'll kill like 1 or 2 enemies and then you'll zip away. You'll slide across the arena, you'll get your momentum stacks back up. So I think it's fine. Like this whole keystone is just kind of fine, but it's not like crazy. Nothing about it super, super crazy. Yeah. And the reason I'm giving, these are big stat buffs on paper, but like the reason I'm giving them A is just like, I don't know. I mean, you would take these if you took this. I guess I can give them S, but it seems like weird to give something that's like a hanger-on to a kind of bad keystone an S. So I'll just give it an A, because I don't think you should really be taking it. What I think you should be taking if you are looking to get more damage and more attack speed is Martyrdom. I think even if you are a scrub-a-dub, and you are going to play really poorly, you can get more value out of Martyrdom than you can out of whatever the hell this is. And the reason being for that, imagine this thought scenario, good viewer. This node right here gives you 2 wounds, right? Martyrdom currently gives you 10% melee damage for each missing wound. It gives you, and you'll also guaranteed take these 2 nodes, 7.5% toughness damage reduction, and 6% attack speed. So if you take these 2 wounds right here, and you take no additional wounds, and you're playing on like a normal game, right? You have 2 wounds to start with, and now you have 2 additional wounds, so you have 4 wounds. So you can lose 75% of your HP with Holy Revenant. You'll be exactly that last wound. You'll be at exactly 25% HP, which means this is getting full value, which means you're getting 3 wounds of value, and you have 3 toughness curios. So reference point for difficulty is Heresy and above. Is Heresy where the number of wounds drops from 3 to 2? Whatever it is. So now you have now you have 3 wounds worth, so you're getting 30% melee damage. You're getting 22.5% toughness damage reduction, and you're getting 18% attack speed, which this is 20% attack speed and 20% melee damage and no toughness damage reduction, just some regeneration over time. So this also gives you passive cooldown. It doesn't require any investment of curios if you play it like that, and you can get as many buffs. So even if you want to get all the buffs that this has and you don't want to sacrifice any curios, you just want to go toughness curios and say stupid tanky, you will still get more buffs out of this and be tankier and do more damage right here. So very, very nice. And I think there might actually be some meta to that. It's like going non-wound curio Martyrdom and getting those passive buffs, and then just having an additional 34% toughness, which is going to get this toughness damage reduction applied to it, could be quite big. So that's my thoughts on it. Anyway, so Martyrdom is pretty unequivocally S. 50% melee damage is very big. I don't know, like, I don't know how much clearer I can be about that. 50% melee damage. Remember, this scales with crits, right? So crits are a multiplier on everything else. So if you pop a crit, which 2 of our abilities here do, guaranteed pop a crit. For instance, if you use Shroudfield and you are doing 50% more damage off of this, up to 20% here, up to 20% here, 10% here, now we're at double damage, then we do 2.5x to our backstab and 2.5x to our finesse, and then we crit, which gives huge, it's just gonna blow the fuck out of a target, right? Increasing the base damage that you do even when your other buffs aren't staggered is huge. Then we have to consider these other 2 nodes, which are absolutely S tier here and here. This is 7.5% toughness damage reduction per stack. So the lower on HP you get, where am I going? The lower on HP you get, the more value this gives you. Toughness damage reduction is incredibly, incredibly valuable. This is almost 40% toughness damage reduction when it's fully stacked, and that makes it very hard if you're playing well to lose those last little trickles of your health that are down there in the bottom of your bar. This over here is up to 30% attack speed. Remember that attack speed scales the animations on weapons, so like revving up your chain axe, swinging with the chain axe, doing the rip animation with the chain axe, like those sort of things are scaled faster due to this, and that really, really increases their value. It increases your reset time, or decreases your reset time on like hitting with the Thunder Hammer and stuff. It just makes you quicker and able to shorten that window between like all sorts of stuff. This is a huge like this is a massive steroid to damage and survivability and like and speed, and like, yeah, it causes you have to sacrifice a lot of your HP and play in a risky situation, but they've actually made it worth it. So if you are capable of playing with this, this is the absolute peak the class can reach, right? This is going to do way more damage than anything else, because if you could do this and crit, right? This one over here, this just gives you crits. This just gives you 25% crit. If you can get crits because you have a weapon that can stack some crits on its own, like you've got like Shred on there or something that gives you 20% crit, then you're good on crits. You don't need this. Then you can run this and just increase your damage by like a fuck ton. Because think about it, right? If you do 100 damage a second and you multiply that by 50%, now you're doing 150 damage a second. And then you multiply that by 1.3 because you're attacking 30% faster. So now you're doing 195 damage per second. You're double damaging. You're doubling your DPS if you're attacking consistently with this. So that's really big. Okay, then down here on the brink, Martyrdom grants 10% corruption resistance for a stack. I'd say this is pretty okay. B tier? B for Bernie? Let's give it a B for Bernie because we get to hear from Bernie here. Yeah, that's a pretty nice node. 50% corruption resistance, or up to 50% corruption resistance, is pretty good. Corruption resist is not a bad talent to take. The problem for corruption resistance is on many classes it's trapped behind a whole lot of garbage, like on Ogren. So yeah, you could take this if you have an extra node. A lot of times you don't, but you could take it. And then capping it off down here is restorative versus Martyrdom grants 5% toughness replenishment per stack. I do not think this is very good. Unfortunately, I think this is a C tier node down here. I think don't take that, probably. Toughness replenishment is not that valuable, and only 25% seems a little low for my taste, right? Yeah, I just don't think that this is very valuable at all, because like in order to replenish toughness, you have to lose toughness, and our goal here is really not to lose very much toughness at all. And we've also got a ton of toughness in the tree already, so we're probably not going to be like, needing that 25% to replenish to full, where you've got chorus, we've got these things to do it. So yeah, I think we're good on replenishment at this point. That would make your charge, instead of doing 50%, would do 62.5% of your toughness bar. I don't think that's a considerable difference, and you need to be really, really low for that to be active anyway. So I think save the point and go into something that's going to give you more defenses, like one of these nodes over here, or something up at the top of the tree, right? Like if you have an extra node, for instance, you could just take enemies within, enemies without, and give you constant juice back over time. So anyway, guys, okay, so there we go. That is the look at the overall tree. Let's see if there's any funny words in here. No, this is completely funny wordless. Damn. Sorry, guys. Yeah. I did what I could, but yeah. So there you go. That is the overall takes on the Zealot talent tree. As we can see, there is a pretty clear path that is developed coming down this way, going straight through the center here, probably picking up. This is how I structured my meta build, as I come down this way, and then I go both horizons here. You can either take this one or this one and come down the bottom of the tree. Then you have an actual choice between ultimate abilities here. And then I still tend to think that the most generally usable, the talents that most people are going to pick up in every single build are going to be these grouping of talents right here. Crits synergizing with themselves and synergizing with bleed is stupid. For 2 points, you should be picking this up 100% of the time. I don't think there's any Zealot build that would not pick these two up. Then you've got damage reduction, which you should also be picking up because you're going to be guaranteed critting. One of the cooldown reduction things is going to be on the table. I happen to think that both of these keystones are crazy god tier, S tier, some of the best keystones in the game in terms of enabling builds and just like making your damage so much higher. I think this one needs work, though. I think this one needs some way to identify itself as not just Martyrdom Light. Like that's literally all it is now, is like less risk, less reward martyrdom, and I don't like that for it, because like I think that keystones should push you into a different playstyle. This is just going to push you into a less risky version of the exact same build, right? This would not you would not differentiate your build by choosing this one over this one in any sense, really. So that is what I'm thinking now. I don't know if Fat Shark is done with this talent tree. There might be more coming in the future, but that is it for now. So if you watched thus far and you're watching this on YouTube, thank you very much for watching, and give a round of applause for our live audience. They've been great, guys. I am out of here.